Chapter 735. I was planning to head to the True Dragon Ravine first to explore the secrets of the Dragon Palace. Now that I've heard news of Taoist Northming, I have to make a trip. Mo Fan smiled faintly and looked at Wang Xueji. Let's go. Although it doesn't sound good for the two of us to join forces to deal with a golden core cultivator, Taoist Northming is a powerful being. However, this Taoist Northming is not ordinary. Most importantly, his growth rate was simply too fast. In just 2 short years, he rose from the God Realm to the Golden Core Realm. Now, it's said that he's only at the mid-stage of the Golden Core Realm, but he already has the battle record of killing immortals and primordial spirit realm powerhouses. If we let him escape, he'll be a great threat to the forces behind us. In less than 10 years, he'll be his second Palace Master Sunday. His potential might even be greater than Palace Master Sun's. Even Palace Master Sun didn't manage to kill immortals when he was at the mid-stage of the Golden Core Realm. Indeed, compared to your Celestial Spirit sect, my 9-star Tao Palace knows more about him. We've already placed him on the highest level of danger and must kill him. Wang Xueji growled. Let's go. What about the Dragon Palace? Upon hearing this, Hua Dingshan hurriedly asked in shock. It's hard to say if there really is a spirit treasure in the Dragon Palace. Even if there is, Taoist Northming is more important to me and Mo Fan. With a super genius with limitless potential and astonishing growth rate as an enemy, no one would be able to eat or sleep in peace. Besides, I believe that with me and Mo Fan working together, it won't be difficult to deal with Taoist Northming. Wang Xueji said faintly. If that's the case, let's go together. Killing someone won't delay anything. Fuyin Fan said calmly, glancing at Mo Fan and Wang Xueji. He didn't care about Taoist Northming's life or death. However, if he could use his life to establish good relations with the Celestial Spirit sect and the 9-star Tao Palace, he felt that it would be worth it. That's right. Since the two of you have already helped our giant whale immortal city take care of the whale barbarian king, we won't be stingy and help you solve your problem. Hua Dingshan laughed and said, since Old Man Fu and the giant whale immortal city lord had already made their decision, the others naturally wouldn't object. If that's the case, many thanks. It would be great to have your help, fellow Taoists. I imagine that Taoist Dark North won't be able to escape even if he grows wings. True Venerate Mo Fan and Wang Xueji said sternly. Why did my soul energy suddenly increase? And in the distance, it seems like a great battle just broke out. In the ruins of the giant whale immortal mansion, Ziyue had just sent the North Nether Sect's disciples back into the North Nether Grotto Heaven. Suddenly, his eyes moved slightly as he looked at the attribute panel. An increase of more than 56 million points of spiritual energy. Only the fall of a middle primordial spirit realm expert would be able to achieve that. Ziyue calculated the increase in his soul energy, and he couldn't help but feel surprised. It was rare to see a battle of this level, and it happened not too far away from where he was. Danger. Even though he was very curious, he still instinctively felt a sense of threat. He trusted his instincts very much, and he had even developed a small evasion technique to maintain it. Although the sense of threat was not too strong, he did not want to fall into such an unknown danger. Therefore, after a moment of hesitation, he unleashed his shadow gravity domain to the extreme. His figure directly disappeared, and then quietly left in a direction slowly and quietly. But soon, Ziyue's figure paused, and he looked at the void above the sea. A group of cultivators with terrifying auras was rushing toward the giant whale immortal mansion. Although he had never seen the old man in the lead, he had already asked Mount Qingxian for some information about the primordial spirit realm experts in the entire astral boundary. Although it was not very detailed, he could already recognize the faces and auras of most of the primordial spirit realm experts. Naturally, he also recognized that this cultivator was Fu Yunfan, a late primordial spirit realm cultivator. Beside him was Hua Dingshan, the city lord of the giant whale immortal city, and Wan Zhongyun, the island lord of Zhongyun Island. However, what really moved him were the other two. One had a sword aura, and the other was elegant and calm. They were Mo Fan of the Celestial Spirit Sect and Wang Shueji of the Nine-Star Dao Palace. It really is them. Judging from their expressions, they don't seem to have suffered a loss. Which means, who was the primordial spirit realm expert that just died? A sea demon? This is the spiritual land of the Giant Whale clan. Although the Bone Kuan clan is nearby, even a primordial spirit realm expert would need a long time to get there. Could it be the Whale Barbarian Demon King of the Giant Whale clan? Ziyue quickly guessed. He knew that the Whale Barbarian Demon King must have sensed the destruction of the Giant Whale Immortal Mansion. It was very normal for him to rush here to rescue. It was just that he was unlucky to run into Fu Yunfan and the others. Look carefully. The sea is still very murky. He must not have gone far. Wang Shuiji was the first to dive into the sea, followed by the others. They soon saw the ruins of the Giant Whale Immortal Mansion. Spread out and search. I'll use a tracking spell. True Highness Mo Fan said. His body was emitting a mystical glow. The cultivators all released their consciousness and began to search carefully, not missing a single corner. In this situation, could it be that they are here for me? Bai Ziyue activated his shadow gravity domain to its limits. He couldn't help but feel bewildered as he watched from afar. Soon after, he confirmed it. This Taoist Dark North is not weak at all. Even I would have to put in a lot of effort to destroy the formation of the Giant Whale Immortal Mansion. I didn't expect him to not only destroy it, but also kill all the giant whales in the Giant Whale Immortal Mansion. Look at the bloodstain here. It hasn't dissipated for a long time, and it's emitting strong fluctuations of vitality. This is the true blood of a primordial spirit realm sea demon. In other words, there must be a primordial spirit realm sea demon guarding the Immortal Mansion. Even so, this Taoist Dark North still managed to destroy it, and the primordial spirit realm sea demon died. This aura, could it be the Giant Whale clan's early powerhouse, the Wild Whale Patriarch? The Wild Whale Patriarch was a mid-stage primordial spirit realm sea demon. He's still alive. However, he still couldn't escape and died. The Wild Whale Patriarch was a mid-stage primordial spirit realm cultivator. Even if his vitality was weak and he didn't have much time left, he was definitely not weak. Even he died at the hands of Taoist Dark North. Is Taoist Dark North truly that terrifyingly powerful? Chapter 736. The group of people speculated based on the situation at the scene, and their faces were filled with shock. Even Fu Yunfan was shocked when he saw this. With his strength, he could easily kill the Wild Whale Patriarch. He could even destroy his opponent's flesh and blood, not leaving a single trace. However, he had already reached the late stage of the primordial spirit realm hundreds of years ago. Although he had not broken through to the peak of the primordial spirit realm, he was not far from that level. At most, he would be able to reach it after another 100 or 200 years of hard work. He could easily kill the Wild Whale Patriarch, but it did not mean that others could do the same. The legendary Taoist Dark North was not even at the primordial spirit realm. It was said that he was only at the late stage of the Golden Core realm, and yet he was able to do this. One could only imagine his strength. Inexplicably, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. It was as if he did not know that he had rashly agreed to Mo Fan and Wang Shueji to attack Taoist Dark North. It was very likely that he would bring a disaster to himself. Thinking about it, how could Taoist Dark North be easy to deal with if he could make two super forces so angry that they did not hesitate to send two peak primordial spirit realm experts to attack him? Thinking of this, he frowned. His strength seems to have increased. Look at this attack mark. The sword chi has soared into the sky, and it will not dissipate for at least 300 years. I think that even Mo Fan would not be able to do it, right? Wang Shueji looked at a mark in the ruins. It was a sword mark like a huge gutter. It was so deep that one could not see the bottom, but it was emitting an extremely sharp sword chi. Even with the strength of their spiritual sense, they felt a stinging pain when they approached the sword chi. It was easy to imagine how strong it was. This is the legacy of our celestial spirit sect, the 9 extinction godly sword. I did not expect him to have already mastered the 9 extinction godly sword. And from the looks of it, his cultivation progress is extremely high. He is at least at the greater success stage. How is this possible? Mo Fan carefully examined the sword chi. His pupils shrank, and his expression changed. He never thought that Ziyue had actually already cultivated this 9 extinction divine sword to such a profound level. As far as he knew, although this inheritance was widely spread in the outside world, it originated from the Celestial Spirit sect. The core secrets of its cultivation were also in the hands of the Celestial Spirit sect. For cultivators in the outside world, if they wished to cultivate it to a higher level, they would have to rely on the secret technique of Heavenly Spirit sect, Baleful Spirit, even if they wanted to achieve a small success, let alone mastery. We can't let him grow any further. If this continues, not only will the two of us suffer a great calamity, even the forces behind us will be overthrown. Wang Xueji's face was solemn to the extreme, and he was no longer as relaxed as before. True Venerate Mo Fan felt the same way. It was the first time he felt a sense of urgency. Bai Ziyue's speed of growth was too fast, beyond their imagination. Thus, the two of them spread out their divine senses and frantically probed the surroundings. They also used a series of secret detection techniques to continuously spy on Ziyue's location. The two of them were sent to track Ziyue, not only because of their strength, but also because of their tracking techniques. With their combined efforts, they quickly discovered something and even vaguely sensed Ziyue's location. Not good. Ziyue's expression changed when he saw this. He knew that his current strength was not weak, and he was not afraid of any mid-stage primordial spirit realm expert. Even if a late-stage primordial spirit realm expert were to attack him, he would still be able to deal with them calmly. However, there were too many of them. 8 primordial spirit realm experts and dozens of golden core realm cultivators. With so many experts attacking at the same time, even a peak primordial spirit realm expert would have to be cautious. Naturally, he would not take the risk. With a thought, Ziyue maintained the gravity shadow domain, but his body did not slow down at all. Even in the sea, his speed was not slower than any early-stage primordial spirit realm cultivator. Soon, he disappeared from where he was and rushed into the distance. It's a pity that although my gravity shadow domain is already a great Abhijna at the perfected level, it is not a Tao technique and cannot affect the laws of heaven and earth. Naturally, it is difficult to completely eliminate the detection and tracking techniques of experts above the primordial spirit realm. Bai Ziyue understood this as he hurried on his way. The stronger one was the deeper one's understanding of heaven and earth. Naturally, one could borrow the power of the laws of heaven and earth to do all sorts of unbelievable things. Only by transcending the laws of heaven and earth, or at least being able to affect the laws of heaven and earth, could one truly eliminate the schemes of others. For example, if the gravity shadow domain that he mastered reached the level of a Tao technique, the power of the domain could affect the laws of the world. Naturally, he would be able to completely hide his body, making it difficult for heaven and earth to detect him. After all kinds of tracking techniques were rooted in Ziyue's existence in heaven and earth. Only by existing in heaven and earth could the heaven and earth sense him and find his tracks. If he disrupted the laws of heaven and earth, making it impossible for heaven and earth to sense him, it would be impossible to detect his location unless it was the legendary karmic technique or the mysterious mysteries of fate. As for transcending the laws of heaven and earth, even a peak primordial spirit realm expert could at most break the shackles of heaven and earth and affect the laws of heaven and earth within a certain range. It was not that easy to transcend the laws of heaven and earth. Perhaps only the legendary immortal path almighty existences had the means to transcend the laws of heaven and earth and set their own laws. Of course, although Ziyue's gravity shadow domain could not affect the laws of heaven and earth and the surroundings, it was still an extremely perfect magic after all. In terms of the profoundness of magic, it had already reached a kind of pinnacle, so its concealment effect was naturally strong. Therefore, even though Mo Fan and Wang Shuiji had used their tracking techniques to detect Ziyue's trace, they only had a vague idea of where he was. However, he was only able to detect the general direction. As for his specific location, he was unable to detect by Ziyue, even though he was more than 10 miles away from them. However, if I want to be more reliable, I still have to upgrade the gravity shadow domain and turn it into a Dao technique. Ziyue indeed had the idea of upgrading his various techniques and turning them into Dao techniques. It was not impossible. After all, he now had the Book of the Great Truths, a tool for deduction. He could even use the Book of the Great Truths to deduce the cultivation techniques of the Golden Core realm and even the primordial spirit realm. It was not difficult to imagine that he would be able to turn the various magic techniques into Dao techniques. The only constraint was the consumption. Although the Book of the Great Truths was magical and powerful, the amount of energy required to deduce it was a little too terrifying. Therefore, even Ziyue would be cautious when using it and would not use it rashly. Chapter 737. Along the way, Ziyue quickly rushed out of the territory of the Giant Whale clan. Adjacent to the Giant Whale clan are the Bone Kuan clan and the Thousand Fish clan. If I'm not mistaken, my current position should be in the territory of the Thousand Fish clan. Ziyue quickly confirmed his location through the sea map. The Thousand Fish clan did not refer to a specific sea monster clan, but a large force formed by countless sea monsters. Most of the sea monsters in the Thousand Fish clan were not like other sea monster clans, who had tyrannical racial talents and could fight against 10 sea monsters. However, in terms of the number of sea monsters, the Thousand Fish clan was 10 times that of other sea monster clans. Therefore, even the ferocious Giant Whale clan and Bone Kuan clan did not dare to provoke them. Not to mention, although the sea monster king of the Thousand Fish clan was a carp of freshwater fish, it was born with a trace of the true dragon bloodline. After several transformations, it now had horns on its head, dragon whiskers, and dragon scales on its body. Its bloodline talent was extremely strong. In addition, its cultivation level was also extremely high, having reached the intermediate primordial soul realm. In terms of strength, it was ranked in the top 3 among all the sea monsters, so it was naturally not easy to provoke it. The number of sea monsters is 10 times that of the Giant Whale clan. If I can kill all the sea monsters here, I should be able to directly fill the gap of my soul energy. Ziyue calculated and was eager to give it a try. However, after thinking about it, he quickly shook his head. He was still in danger at the moment, so it was not good to make a scene and attract the attention of Mo Fan and the others, which would lead to a war. In addition, he knew that the Thousand Fish clan was one of the few sea monster clans that was relatively friendly to human cultivators. If it was not necessary, it would not be good to kill wantonly. Next, I should hurry to the True Dragon Valley. If the legendary Dragon Palace is real, it is indeed worth taking the risk. Not to mention, a conflict between human cultivators and sea monster clans will inevitably lead to a war. This is also a good thing for my collection of soul energy. It couldn't be any better if I'm able to gather sufficient soul energy and advance my cultivation to the peak of the Golden Core realm. As Ziyue's thoughts raced, he knew that there were definitely countless demon kings and various demon clans gathered in the True Dragon Ravine. The upper echelons of the 5 sea demon clans had all entered the True Dragon Ravine. This represented a large amount of spiritual energy. Presently, his soul energy was insufficient, and if he wanted to advance his cultivation from the advanced stage of the Golden Core realm to the perfection stage of the Golden Core realm, then he just happened to require an enormous amount of soul energy to replenish it. In short, the current True Dragon Ravine has definitely become a place where winds and clouds gather. Once the time was right, a battle was inevitable. Perhaps I can also use this opportunity to reap the benefits of the fisherman and increase my soul energy by a large amount. Ziyue quickly determined his target. Thus, he turned his body slightly and quickly changed his direction. The sea monsters of the Thousand Fish clan were scattered all over the place. and their strength was relatively weak. Even if they could bring him a large amount of soul energy, it would take a lot of effort. How could it compare to the true dragon ravine, where the winds and clouds gathered? Not to mention the legendary Dragon Palace. Anyone would be tempted as long as they did not become a mighty figure of the immortal Tao. The temptation of a numinous treasure is too great. Even if it is only possible to have a numinous treasure, even if it is only one in 10,000 chance, there will definitely be many primordial soul realm experts who will travel thousands of miles to enter. Not to mention, from all the signs, the probability of there being a numinous treasure in the Dragon Palace is definitely not small. Lightning flashed on Ziyue's body as he flew rapidly in the sea. Suddenly, a huge trench appeared in front of him. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of miles long it was. This is the true Dragon Ravine? Ziyue was excited. At the same time, he also noticed that there were many sea demons patrolling the vicinity of the true Dragon Ravine, as if they were guarding against something. These sea demons were not very strong. At most, they were at the Aperture Awakening realm. Moreover, there was one every few miles, and it seemed very crowded. It was not easy for an ordinary cultivator to enter in front of so many sea demons without being noticed. However, Ziyue was not among these people. Under the effect of the gravity shadow domain, his entire body seemed to have disappeared from this part of the world. Even primordial soul realm experts would not be able to discover him easily at this time, let alone these low-level sea demons. Therefore, Ziyue passed through the various checkpoints silently and directly entered the true Dragon Ravine. Chi-chi. Waves of strange, chaotic energy fluctuations gave off soft, crisp sounds as they echoed around him. There were also some bubbles that approached silently. Right at this moment, a fish slowly swam past and touched the bubble. Almost at the instant it touched the bubble, the entire fish silently turned into powder and completely disappeared. This is the deep-sea evil chi from the deepest part of the trench. Although it is not a big threat to me, even a deity realm sea demon would be seriously injured if it touches it. The environment in the true Dragon Ravine is not good. Ziyue looked at all this and could not help but mutter. However, even though he was muttering, he did not stop at all and continued to go deeper. 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 10,000 meters. As he went deeper, not only did the pressure of the surrounding seawater increase greatly, but the entire world seemed to have lost its light and became extremely dark and gloomy. With just the naked eye, he could only vaguely see the surrounding sea, but he could no longer see the surrounding sea like before. He could only rely on his divine sense. When he released his divine sense to explore, even in the endless darkness, he could sense the changes in the surrounding environment and see the various scenes in the trench. Naturally, he could also guard against possible dangers. Therefore, such an environment did not have much of an effect on him. 20,000 meters, 30,000 meters, 40,000 meters. Suddenly, Ziyue's heart trembled and his eyes lit up. At the end, at the bottom, there was a glimmer of light. This light was emitted by a kind of aquatic plant. It was silver white and emitted a faint light. Ghost grass? Could this be the legendary ghost grass? This is one of the main ingredients for refining the ghost penetration pill. It is difficult to find in the outside world. I did not expect to find so many in the trench. Looking at the ghost grass, Ziyue sighed and began to walk forward along the trench. Now, although he was at the bottom of the trench, he still did not know the location of the Dragon Palace and did not know anything about it. Naturally, he had to explore it first before making a fuss about it. Walking along the trench, Ziyue's face gradually became a little strange. The entire trench does not seem to be naturally formed by the heavens and the earth. It is a blow from a powerful existence. With a blow, the entire seabed was split into two halves and formed such a huge trench. Ziyue could not help but be shocked and extremely shocked. Chapter 738. It was extremely wide and long, and it was tens of thousands of meters deep. Even if he used the 9 Extinction Divine Sword with all his might, he would not be able to reach such a depth. A mighty figure of the immortal Tao, This is definitely a destruction that only a mighty figure of the immortal Tao can cause. When Bai Ziyue came to this conclusion, he could not help but feel a sense of longing in his heart. Such a mighty force was at least 10 times stronger than him, and he naturally admired it. However, this true dragon ravine is so wide and deep. Where is the dragon palace? Ziyue could not help but mutter as he flew along the depths of the sea. He was not in a hurry. With his speed, as long as that group of sea demons was really in the true dragon ravine, he would definitely encounter them. How's the investigation going? At this moment, a slightly sinister voice suddenly sounded in Ziyue's ears. Ziyue paused, and he was shocked. Someone was here, and it seemed that there was more than one. Who was it? Bewildered, Ziyue maintained the gravitational shadow domain and hid himself in the darkness as if he was nothingness. The dark and gloomy environment at the bottom of the sea was beneficial for his concealment. Even if the divine senses of an essence soul realm expert swept past, it would be extremely difficult to detect his tracks. Then, he carefully approached the source of the voice, and soon noticed a group of people quietly hiding in a cave at the bottom of the sea. It was a group of cultivators dressed in black robes, and there were about 30 of them. Even though they were far away, Ziyue could still feel the sinister demonic aura emanating from them. Demonic cultivators? This is a group of demonic cultivators? Ziyue's heart skipped a beat, and he soon made more discoveries. This group of demonic cultivators was only at the essence soul realm, and there were as many as 5 of them. He sensed that the strongest of them was definitely not weaker than Fu Yunfan, whom he had met before, and was obviously a late-stage Essence Soul Realm expert. The remaining 4 included 2 mid-stage Essence Soul Realm experts, 2 early-stage Essence Soul Realm experts, and more than 20 Golden Core Realm demonic monarchs. They could definitely be considered powerful. At the very least, he would be able to put up a fight against Fu Yunfan and the others. Soul-devouring demon sovereign, myriad moon true demon, great sky demon, Kong Mo, six-fingered true demon. These demonic cultivators should be the demonic cultivators that Steward Zhao of the Grand Dao Commerce Alliance mentioned. But I don't know if they came here for the news of the Dragon Palace that was leaked out at some unknown time, or for me, or perhaps both. Ziyue's mind raced. He had already discovered the identities of these demonic cultivators. Among them, there were people from the True Devil sect, as well as people from the Heaven Demon sect and the Limitless Demon sect. The 3 great demon sects were the strongest 3 great demon sects in the heavenly demon world. They were also one of the top 10 super forces. Amongst them, the 10,000 Moon True Devil and Kong Mo were both experts from the True Devil sect. He believed that if he showed himself now, these 2 devil cultivators would definitely not let him off. However, this time around, the top powers of the 3 demon sects had joined forces for the legendary treasure of the Dragon Palace. He also placed the matter of tracking him to the back of his mind. Soul-devouring demon sovereign, the 5 great sea demon clans have already gathered at the underground altar. They have set up a shocking formation there, as if waiting for something. They did not directly activate the altar to open the entrance to the Dragon Palace. A demonic cultivator with 2 wings of flesh on his back, a hawk-nosed thunder god's mouth, and a kind of bird-like fur on his body looked respectfully at a stalwart figure in front of him. This demonic cultivator with wings of flesh and a hawk-nosed thunder god's mouth was the True Devil sect's early-stage primordial spirit expert, Kong Mo. And the one he was respectfully facing was the Heavenly Demon Clan's expert, the soul-devouring demon sovereign. For demonic cultivators, the strong were revered. Therefore, even though the soul-devouring demon sovereign belonged to different sects, they should not have any subordinate relationship. However, the soul-devouring demon sovereign was at the late-stage primordial spirit realm and was unparalleled in strength. Once they met, Kong Mo naturally did not dare to show the slightest disrespect and had to follow his lead. By the way, the giant whale clan in the middle seemed to have received some kind of message and rushed out of the altar, disappearing without a trace. On the other hand, Some of the remaining great demons of the giant whale clan, including a few of their vassal forces, are still near the altar and have not left. Then, Kongamo seemed to have thought of something and continued speaking. Oh, then there's no need to be too concerned. The soul-devouring demon Sovereign waved his hand and asked, "What about the other sea demons? How many primordial spirit realm demons are there? What are their strengths? How many golden core realm sea demons are there?" Apart from the whale barbarian demon king of the giant whale clan who has already left, there are 10 other primordial spirit realm sea demons. This includes Demon King Ao Su and Demon King Ao Bin from the Black Flood Dragon clan, Demon King Song Gu and Demon King Song Hao from the Bone Kuin clan, Demon King Whale Moon from the Giant Whale clan, Golden Scaled Demon King and Black Octopus Demon King from the Thousand Fish clan, Turtle Feather Demon King and Turtle Shell Demon King from the Spirit Turtle clan, as well as Demon King Sea Shark from the Sea Shark clan. As for the Golden Core Realm Great Demons, there are more than 300 of them in total. As for the God Realm Sea Demons, there are no less than 5,000. Kongimo said solemnly. As expected, I can't act rashly. Although Demon King Ao Su from the Black Flood Dragon clan is not as strong as me, his strength in the sea is extremely strong. If I were to fight him, I might be at a disadvantage. Moreover, Demon King Tsanggu, Golden Scaled Demon King, and Turtle Feather Demon King are not easy to deal with. The soul-devouring demon Sovereign could not help but reveal a solemn expression. Although he was extremely confident in his own strength, he also knew that the environment had a great impact on his strength, especially in the depths of the sea. Not only was his battle strength limited, but many of his techniques could not be used to the fullest. At most, he could only use 80% of his peak battle strength. As for the many sea demons, they were like fish in water in this place. Their battle strength had increased to a certain extent. In this situation, it was indeed difficult for him to pose a threat to them if they were only one level lower than him, let alone fighting against someone a higher level. Moreover, the many sea demon kings had excellent bloodline talents. Their battle strength was superior to that of true cultivators of the same level. It was not impossible for them to fight against someone of a higher level. For example, Demon King Ao Su. Although he had not really fought against him, he knew that Ao Su was recognized as the strongest among the 5 great sea demon clans. He was definitely not weaker than him. It seems that we have to plan for the long term. However, if they keep guarding the side of the altar and are on guard after the entrance is opened, our chances of entering the Dragon Palace will be much slimmer. The Myriad Moon True Demon said hesitantly, "Don't worry. When the Dragon Palace is opened, they will not be as united as they are now. Even if there is not chaos, they will at least swarm into the entrance. At that time, it will be our chance. Moreover, the Great Whale Immortal City has also received the news. They will definitely do something." The soul-devouring demon, Sovereign, waved his hand nonchalantly. Chapter 739. The others nodded in agreement. The Great Whale Immortal City was an immortal force that bordered the 5 great sea monster clans. They were even more well-informed than the demonic cultivators. Such a huge commotion among the sea monsters must have attracted the attention of the Great Whale Immortal City. Before they had set off, they had also noticed that many powerful cultivators had already gathered in the Great Whale Immortal City. They were probably hiding somewhere and spying on the situation. It was impossible for them to be anxious. That would be for the best. The Myriad Moon True Demon's face relaxed when he heard this. On the other side, Bai Ziwe, who was quietly hiding, couldn't help but have a glint in his eyes when he heard this. The 5 great sea monster clans have 10 primordial spirit realm cultivators. There are even 300 golden core realm sea monsters and 5,000 divinity realm sea monsters. If we add in the demonic cultivators 5 primordial spirit realm cultivators and 20 golden core realm cultivators, and the Great Whale Immortal City's 8 primordial spirit realm cultivators and 30 golden core realm cultivators. How many powerful cultivators have gathered in the True Dragon Ravine? If a great battle breaks out, Bai Ziyu pondered silently, unable to conceal the shock in his heart. He was even a little excited. He knew that a great battle was inevitable with so many powerful cultivators gathered, and any great battle would be accompanied by death and injury. At the same time, it would give him spiritual energy. How much spiritual energy would be left after the deaths of so many powerful cultivators? His heart skipped a beat at the thought of it. One had to know that this was only the number of powerful cultivators he knew of. In fact, there must be many other powerful cultivators like the demonic cultivators hiding in the True Dragon Ravine. There were even more powerful cultivators like the ones from the Great Whale Immortal Palace who had rushed over. This is a good thing for me. The more powerful cultivators there are, the more spiritual energy I will have. Perhaps my chance to break through to the peak of the Golden Core realm will be right in front of me. Ziyu glanced at the cave where the demonic cultivators were and left silently. Then, he once again traveled through the seabed. He needed to investigate in greater detail how many powerful cultivators were hiding in the True Dragon Ravine. That way, he would be able to predict the enemy's movements in the upcoming battle and gain a greater advantage. As expected, there's still something hidden. An early-stage primordial spirit realm cultivator? It's Niao Wushuang, an itinerant cultivator. This person is one of the rare true cultivators who are adept at fighting underwater. His combat strength in the deep sea is definitely not weaker than the average intermediate primordial spirit realm expert. Ziyu scanned the area after passing by a coral at the bottom of the sea. Soon, he noticed a cultivator who was silently hiding there. He quickly identified the other party. However, he didn't alert the other party and continued forward. Immediately after, he sensed traces of some cultivators and even sea demons. Not only were there human cultivators, but there were also some powerful sea demons at the Essence Soul realm and Golden Core realm. Of course, he had also found the altar where the powerhouses of the 5 great sea demon clans were gathered, which Kong Mo had mentioned earlier. Countless sea monsters gathered, especially those who maintained their original forms. Their bodies were relatively large, which made the scene even more shocking. Above the altar, in particular, was a faint, profound light. Under the profound light, there was a dense array formation. Even he felt a faint sense of threat from it. For some reason, this altar gives me a very bad feeling. Could there be something strange about it? Ziyu looked at the array formation that covered the altar and the true dragon statue at the top of the altar. After thinking about it, he didn't stop nearby and stayed far away. Finally, he carefully hid near the karst cave where the fiendish cultivators were. Then he quieted down. He didn't idle around. While waiting in secret, he also began to cultivate his Tao techniques and great Tao Dharma power. Even though it was difficult for him to cultivate his great Tao Dharma power in a short period of time. However, he knew very well that almost every successful cultivator of the immortal Tao was either on the path of cultivation or in the midst of cultivation. Even though he had extraordinary opportunities and could use the attribute panel to save a lot of time for cultivation, he would never let time pass silently. Moreover, he was already used to it. He was used to this kind of cultivation and liked the feeling of constantly increasing his strength. Even if the increase was very slow, this kind of tireless and subtle improvement made him happy. It's about time to start. Many preparations are complete. It's time to open the altar and use the power of the altar to open the Dragon Palace. Many monster kings gathered on the altar. At this moment, archaic Monster King of the Bone Kuin clan suggested, "Let's begin." Monster King Golden Scaled couldn't help but speak up. Monster King Whale Moon of the Giant Whale clan opened his mouth to say something, but quickly closed it again. Just a moment ago, he had learned a piece of news that was as bad as the heavens collapsing for the Giant Whale clan. The Giant Whale Immortal Manor had collapsed, the Wild Whale ancestor had died, and even the leader of the Giant Whale clan, Whale Barbarian, was most likely dead. Although he hadn't received confirmation of his death, he had sent out a series of messages, but there was no response. Through some small monsters, he learned that Whale Barbarian had encountered many experts from the Giant Whale Immortal Manor. Naturally, he was anxious. However, The Dragon Palace was about to open, so he naturally didn't dare to leave. If the other Monster Kings wanted to open the altar, he had no reason to stop them and didn't dare to stop them. Therefore, he could only continue to send out messages, hoping to receive a response from the Monster Kings. Buzz! Suddenly, he sensed that the message had been connected. Immediately after, he didn't even have time to identify the other party's aura and directly said, "Your Majesty, come back quickly. The altar is about to open. If you're late, the entrance to the Dragon Palace will be closed. If you want to enter again, you'll have to wait for 1,000 years. Is that so? How long will the entrance and exit be maintained?" Soon, a slightly strange voice sounded from the other side. With the power of the altar, if there are enough sacrifices, it can be maintained for 100 breaths of time. The more sacrifices there are, the longer it will be maintained. Monster King Whale Moon quickly replied, but suddenly felt that something was wrong. The voice on the other side of the transmission token was strange. Immediately after, he sensed the message on the other side, and his expression changed drastically. "You're not the king. Who are you?" He turned pale with fright. However, on the other side, he quickly closed the communication channel after hearing what was said, and no more sound came out. "What's going on?" Monster King Golden Scaled, who was slightly closer to him, couldn't help but ask. Even though Monster King Whale Moon would automatically seal the space when he sent a message to prevent the message from leaking out, Golden Scaled could still see that something was wrong from his expression. "No, nothing." Monster King Whale Moon shook his head repeatedly, but his heart sank. Chapter 740. The communication token was not precious, but it was something that cultivators carried around with them. Generally speaking, it would not fall into the hands of others unless the cultivator died or their physical body was destroyed. Could it be that the Whale Barbarian King had already? He was extremely flustered. "How is your king? Can you make it back in time?" The golden-scaled Beast King asked as his eyes flickered. Should. Whale Moon Monster King hesitated, his face clouded over with uncertainty. After a while, he gritted his teeth and a trace of determination appeared on his face. Then he stretched out his body and shouted, "Everyone, my giant whale clan has suddenly encountered a great change. The Whale Barbarian King has not been able to escape. Therefore, I have decided that our giant whale clan will withdraw from this trip to the Dragon Palace. The giant whale clan will not touch the treasures that you have obtained in the Dragon Palace." "What? Withdraw? The giant whale clan has decided to withdraw?" It is said that there are spirit treasures in the Dragon Palace. Even if we don't talk about the legendary spirit treasures, there is still the blood of a true dragon that can enhance the bloodline of sea beasts. There are many sea demon inheritances and countless rare treasures. Why would the giant whale clan give up such an opportunity? All the sea demons were in an uproar when they heard this. However, most of them couldn't hide their joy. Although there were countless treasures in the Dragon Palace, with so many sea demons converging together, the chances of obtaining treasures were naturally much lower. If the giant whale clan withdrew, wouldn't their chances be greatly increased? Therefore, many sea demons pretended to ask a few questions, but in their hearts, they could not wait for them to leave as soon as possible. Whale Moon Ancestor. The giant whale clan's sea demons were shocked and anxious when they heard this. The Dragon Palace was about to open. Why would the Whale Moon Ancestor suddenly decide to withdraw? Was he going to give up such a great opportunity to obtain treasures? All right, I have made up my mind. There's no need to say anymore. The Whale Moon Beast King replied to the giant whale clan's sea demons and said in a low voice. He was laughing bitterly in his heart. If not for the fact that he had no other choice, why would he give up this opportunity to enter the Dragon Palace? There were countless treasures in the Dragon Palace. How could not know? However, the giant whale clan's lair, the giant whale immortal mansion, had already been breached. Even their king, the Whale Barbarian Demon King, was still in danger. It was very likely that he had already fallen. So, how could they have the heart to enter the Dragon Palace to seize the treasures? If they were not careful, it was possible for their entire clan to be wiped out. The inside of the Dragon Palace was never a good place. Not to mention, it glanced at the many demon kings. If it had been before, with the whale barbarian king's presence, it was certain that these monster kings wouldn't dare to do anything to its giant whale clan. But this time, the news of the whale barbarian monster king's death might not have spread yet. But if they really entered the Dragon Palace and their whale clan was weak, it was hard to guarantee that they would be schemed against and suppressed by the other sea monsters, or even directly attacked. The 5 great sea demon clans all belonged to the same sea, but they had never coexisted in harmony. The intensity of the battle between the two sides, as well as the degree of hatred between the two sides, was even greater than that between human cultivators. Now, they were the only remaining members of the whale clan. It naturally didn't dare to take the risk of losing them in the Dragon Palace. If the Whale Moon clan was really wiped out here, it would be hard for it to forgive itself even if it died. Since the Whale Moon Demon King has already made up his mind, we won't force it. In the end, Demon King Ao Su and Demon King Tsang Gu looked at each other and smiled. Many thanks. The Whale Moon Demon King nodded and then shouted, "Let's go." He quickly flew up and rushed out of the trench. Following closely behind were the giant whale clan's sea monsters. However, after a moment of hesitation, most of the subordinate sea monsters of the whale clan stopped and didn't leave. After all, they were here for the chance to enter the Dragon Palace and seize the treasures. Naturally, they wouldn't leave so easily. All right, let's begin. Activate the altar and open the entrance. Seeing the whale Moon Demon Monarch leave, Ao Su quickly shouted. Immediately, countless sea monsters began to move. They channeled all of their monster energy into the altar's formation. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The altar trembled, and a special light suddenly shot out in all directions, gradually converging on the true dragon statue above the altar. Buzz, buzz, buzz. As the light converged, the true dragon statue suddenly seemed to come alive. A red light flashed in its eyes, and the dragon head opened its mouth. Roar! A deep dragon roar was heard. A white pearl that looked like a dragon pearl suddenly appeared. Now offer the true dragon blood. Ancient Azure Demon King shouted. Do I need you to tell me that? Ao Su snorted coldly. He carefully took out a coral jade box from his bosom. He opened the jade box, and a droplet of blood that seemed to contain endless vitality and special power appeared before him. It hurriedly used its demonic chi to wrap around the drop of blood and quickly shot out, entering the dragon's body. At the same time, the other demon kings also gathered their power around the altar. Buzz, 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 the seawater shook. It was as if a mighty force had rushed out, stripping away a large amount of seawater from the altar and pushing it far away, forming a huge vacuum. As the drop of true dragon blood landed on the dragon pearl, a special green light flashed out, radiating in all directions. Then, an area that was filled with endless light appeared in front of everyone. Found it. It's the connection point between the Dragon Palace and this world. It's also the weakest point of the Dragon Palace's defense. Quick, let's attack together and blast this place open. Demon Monarch Ao Su roared, and the demon elemental energy in his body boiled instantly. Beside him, Ao Bin, vast ancient demon king, vast sea demon king, golden-scaled demon king, black octopus demon king, turtle-feathered demon king, tortoiseshell demon king, and sea shark demon king all attacked. On the other side, the God Realm and Golden Core Realm sea monsters of the 5 major sea monster clans, including their subordinate sea monsters, more than 300 Golden Core Realm sea monsters, and more than 5,000 God Realm sea monsters attacked together. They formed a battle formation and blasted out an attack. This attack was made by the combined forces of the 9 Essence Soul Realm sea monsters and countless sea monsters. The power was so strong that it instantly surpassed the peak of the Essence Soul Realm. Rumble. The waves shook, and the endless seawater was turned into nothingness. As for that weak spot, it was also the moment when the endless attacks landed. Boom! It was blasted into nothingness. A huge hole that was emitting endless streams of light appeared in the sky. Through the hole, many sea monsters could even vaguely see a huge and wide palace with endless spiritual light. The Dragon Palace. The Dragon Palace. On the other side of the hole was the Dragon Palace. The entrance and exit had been blasted open. Countless sea monsters instantly became excited. Even the 9 demon kings had a strange look in their eyes. They had been waiting for this day for too long. Before them, they had heard rumors that their ancestors had entered the Dragon Palace, and many of them had obtained opportunities. However, it had been too long. Every 1,000 years, the Dragon Palace, which was outside the spatial turbulence, would overlap with the space near the true dragon ravine and form a connection point. The interval between this connection point was actually very short. The previous generation, and even the generation before that, had missed the best opportunity and failed to capture this connection point. Now, they had made a lot of preparations. Finally, with the help of the altar and the true dragon's blood, they were able to pinpoint the location of the connection point. Then, they gathered the power of countless sea demons and launched an attack. This attack was extremely powerful. Even though the power was mixed and scattered, it still surpassed the peak of the Essence Soul Realm. Naturally, it was able to blast open the spatial membrane and enter the Dragon Palace through the spatial connection point. Quick, charge! The various demon kings roared and transformed into streams of light that charged toward the entrance and exit. Even more sea demons were stirred up by this. They transformed into streams of light that charged out. In fact, they had no choice but to be excited. Although this space had been blasted apart by them, how powerful was the power of the universe? Naturally, it also had a strong healing power. With the passage of time, the shattered space slowly repaired itself. The originally huge hole also slowly shrank. This group of sea monsters was usually very large. Even if the sea monsters of the Golden Core realm and above could use the shape-shifting technique to shrink their bodies, the more than 5,000 deity realm sea monsters did not have such ability. As the hole continued to shrink and their bodies did not change, they were bound to come into contact with it. This hole was actually equivalent to a large spatial crack. Apart from the hole, which was relatively safe because there was no spatial membrane, the corner was countless times more dangerous than the sharpest sword. Even Essence Soul Realm experts would be injured if they came into contact with it. Even Golden Core Realm experts would be at risk of death if they came into contact with it, let alone a group of deity realm sea monsters. After the 9 Essence Soul Realm Demon Kings had charged in one after another, they did not have the ability to create another hole like this. As such, when the strongest batch of Essence Soul Realm Demon Kings and some top Golden Core Realm Demon Kings charged in at the first moment, the other sea demons could no longer maintain their original order. All of them fell into chaos as they fought to be the first to charge out with ferocious expressions. Even the Golden Core Realm sea monsters could not maintain their original calm at this moment. When they encountered their original nemesis, they even used underhanded means to push the enemy to the edge of the spatial membrane. Even though they were apprehensive and did not dare to fight, there were still sea monsters that met with misfortune occasionally. They crashed into the edge of the spatial membrane and screamed as they were cut in half. Some even died directly. Quick! The entrance to the Dragon Palace has appeared. Wait a while more. Fuyi and Fan and the others from the Great Whale Immortal City have not made their move yet. Let's wait until they rush in. After all, the sea monsters have already gone in first. There is no guarantee that they will set a trap inside. We demonic cultivators are actually slightly weaker than the other 2 parties in terms of numbers and strength. It is best not to reveal ourselves so quickly. We can't wait any longer. The longer we delay, the smaller the hole in the spatial membrane will become. Although we are much smaller than the sea monsters, it is still very dangerous to touch the spatial membrane, unless we are willing to expend our energy to create another hole. However, to break the spatial membrane, we need at least an attack at the pinnacle of the Essence Soul Realm, just the location of the Dragon Palace. Although the sea monsters easily found the location of the Dragon Palace, they had to use the power of the altar and the true dragon's blood to locate it. From what I know, the location of the Dragon Palace is not fixed. If we delay our rescue and leave the surrounding space, it will be bad. Moreover, the more sea monsters enter, the more disadvantageous it will be for us. Not to mention the unknown dangers within the Dragon Palace itself. The gathering of so many sea monsters is also a huge threat. Therefore, we cannot hesitate any longer. Let's set off and take advantage of the chaos to prevent more sea monsters from entering the Dragon Palace. We may even kill them all. In the cave, the soul-devouring demon Supremacy and the others were discussing spiritedly. They all had anxious looks on their faces. All right, let's set off. The soul-devouring demon Supremacy also had a grave look on his face. With their combined strength, it was actually not difficult for them to break through the spatial barrier. However, it was as the six-fingered True Devil had said. The exact location of the Dragon Palace was not fixed. Even if they reopened the spatial hole, it would be difficult for them to use the hole to enter the Dragon Palace. Therefore, the soul-devouring demon Supremacy quickly made a decision. With a low roar, he quickly flew up and charged out of the cave. In fact, there were many experts hiding in the dark who had the same idea as the soul-devouring demon Supremacy. When they noticed that the entrance to the Dragon Palace had appeared and that many sea monsters had already stepped into it, they could no longer hold themselves back and charged out. Even Fu Yunfan and the others did the same. As soon as he appeared, he turned into a ray of light and rushed toward the altar. It is indeed a place where the wind and clouds gather. There will never be a lack of killing. Not long after the soul-devouring demon Supremacy and the other demonic cultivators left, Ziwe, who was hiding in the dark, slowly opened his eyes. When he saw that his spiritual energy was increasing rapidly on his attribute panel, he could not help but sigh. Then, he also got up and charged toward the altar silently. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths, 3 breaths later, Yao Yao appeared in front of the altar. There were at least 3,000 deity realm sea monsters who did not manage to charge into the spatial hole. However, at this moment, Fu Yunfan and the soul-devouring demon Supremacy from the Great Whale Immortal City and the soul-devouring demon Supremacy from the demonic cultivators had already appeared and charged toward the entrance. Rumble. More than 10 primordial spirit realm experts and many golden core realm cultivators attacked at the same time. The terrifying attacks spread out and turned into a scene that made countless sea monsters despair. Chi, endless blood splattered and severed limbs scattered in all directions. With just one attack, at least 500 deity realm sea monsters were completely killed. Chapter 741. Quick, 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 go in. Countless sea monsters roared. Amidst the chaos, they fought each other and rushed towards the space tunnel. Chi. Countless sea monsters rushed in, fighting to be the first to enter. More sea monsters could only wander around. Some of them were smart enough to give up on the idea of entering the Dragon Palace and rush towards the outside. Most of the cultivators would not waste their energy on them and did not care. However, more sea monsters were unwilling to give up such an opportunity. Therefore, Fu Yunfan and the rest were merciless. They wanted to clear the obstacles in front of them as quickly as possible and enter the Dragon Palace. Chi. Countless severed limbs and endless blood and flesh of the sea demons immediately scattered on the altar on the ground. My spiritual energy is increasing so quickly. In such a short time, it has reached more than 500 million, and it's still increasing rapidly. It won't be long before it reaches more than 1 billion. Ziwe was a little excited. He had made the right decision to go to the True Dragon Ravine. If it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have been able to increase his soul energy so quickly if he had relied on himself to fight. 600 million, 700 million, 800 million. The killing continued, and Ziwe's spiritual energy was increasing rapidly. Seeing his spiritual energy increasing rapidly, Ziwe felt a sense of urgency. He was afraid that his spiritual energy would reach 1 billion, and his attribute panel would be upgraded. Moreover, he knew that entering the Dragon Palace would be accompanied by unknown dangers. Not to mention other things, just the sea monsters, Fu Yunfan and the other human experts, and the demonic cultivators. Not to mention, there would definitely be dangers in the Dragon Palace that would threaten him. Therefore, he hurriedly made a move. Consume 100 million spiritual energy to increase the cultivation progress of the later stage of the Supreme Primordial Tao technique from 30% to 35%. Increase. Consume 500 million spiritual energy to increase the cultivation progress of the later stage of the Supreme Primordial Tao technique from 35% to 60%. Increase. Ziyue chose to increase his spiritual energy. Instantly, his aura soared. Not only did his cultivation speed increase greatly, but his primordial Tao power also became thicker and more stable. Naturally, the strength of his physical body and the solidification of his soul also rose sharply. Furthermore, Ziyue's soul flickered. He could vaguely feel a pressure. It was as if he couldn't expand it any further. This is a sign that one's soul has reached the limit of what one's amethyst golden core can bear. If I want to continue growing, the only way is to break the shackles of the aura's core and break out of the core. Ziyue seemed to have thought of something, and a look of shock appeared on his face. Perfect soul. Generally speaking, such a situation would only occur when an immortal spell cultivator's strength rose to the peak of the golden core realm. However, at this moment, Ziyue was very clear that he had yet to reach the perfected golden core realm. However, the strength of his soul had already reached the great circle realm, and there was no way for it to improve any further. Right now, my cultivation progress is only at 60% of the Supreme Primordial Tao technique. If he wanted to continue improving, he would need to consume at least 800 million points of soul energy. Don't tell me that I still need to break the shackles of the aura's core. Only then can I continue to cultivate. Ziyue muttered in his heart. He looked at the amount of soul energy on the attribute panel, and a thought flashed through his mind again. Consume 100 million points of soul energy to increase the cultivation progress of the Supreme Primordial Tao technique from 60% to 65%. Increase. Ziyue chose to increase it without hesitation. Instantly, Ziyue's physical strength and the purity of his primordial Tao power increased slightly. Even the strength of his soul was increased. It did not stop growing just because he had not broken the shackles of the aura's core. Don't tell me that it was just an illusion before. My soul actually did not reach the Great Circle realm. Ziyue was a little puzzled. Soon, his expression changed. No, that's not right. My soul energy has indeed reached the Great Circle realm. This time, the strength of my soul has indeed increased. However, because of the pressure of the aura's core, the increased soul energy has directly transformed into strands of special golden threads. Ziyue sensed that strands of golden threads that looked like willow catkins had suddenly appeared on his soul. Golden soul strands. What is the use of these golden soul strands? Ziyue was a little puzzled. Under the control of the soul, these strands of golden soul strands rotated slightly and immediately increased the strength of his soul by a lot. Moreover, Ziyue inexplicably felt that his perception had begun to increase as the golden soul strands rotated. Everything in the world became incomparably detailed at this moment. Even the extremely complicated profundities of the laws that condensed the heavens and the earth had nowhere to hide, and they were clearly within his perception. Could this golden soul strands be the primordial spirit power unique to the primordial spirit realm experts? However, it feels more magical than the primordial spirit power. Ziyue guessed and quickly shook his head. It was not that he had never come into contact with the primordial spirit power of the primordial spirit realm experts. For example, the primordial spirit true fluid was actually transformed from the primordial spirit power of the primordial spirit realm experts. However, in terms of magical power, it was not as magical as his golden soul strands. Another thing worth mentioning was that he felt that if he were to be absent-minded while executing his natural superpower, if he had the support of the golden soul strands, the power and effect would definitely be much more terrifying than before. He was instantly eager to try it out and could not wait to try it out. However, just as he was about to make a move, Suddenly, his face changed. Something is not right. With the support of the golden soul strands, his perception was exquisite and powerful and had reached an unimaginable level. Therefore, when he focused his attention on the battlefield, he suddenly realized that there was a slight special change in the entire altar square. Vaguely, there seemed to be a special force supporting the altar and then guiding it to rapidly absorb and devour the essence of the flesh and blood on the corpses of the fallen sea monsters. In just a short period of time, more than half of the essence of the flesh and blood on the corpses of the sea monsters were consumed and gradually decayed. However, many sea monsters and cultivators were still fighting wildly on the altar and did not notice this at all. There is indeed something strange about this altar. Ziwe inexplicably thought of the sense of danger that he had felt when he was near the altar previously. At this moment, the sense of danger once again surfaced in his heart, and it was clearly much stronger than before. In a trance, it also made him feel as if an ancient and powerful existence was slowly awakening. Charge! Charge quickly! The entrance is getting smaller and smaller. Frenzied roars continued to be heard. As the powerhouses attacked one after another, the number of sea monsters was obviously thinned out. The human cultivators were also fighting among the sea monsters and rushing toward the entrance of the Dragon Palace. 1, 2, 3. One by one, the primordial soul realm powerhouses rapidly approached the entrance of the space hole. Without any hesitation, Fu Yunfan turned into a stream of light and rushed in. Following closely behind was Mo Fan's true venerate. His body moved like lightning and actually turned into a sword light. Not only was his speed extremely fast, but all the sea demons that were in his path would also be cut in half when they came into contact with his sword light. They would die on the spot. However, the third person to rush into the Dragon Palace was not from a giant whale immortal city, but a demon cultivator, the Wraith Demon Supremacy. The Wraith Demon Supremacy held a black scepter in his hand. The scepter seemed to contain a strange and terrifying special power. As it spread out, it enveloped the sea monsters in the vicinity. Pist, pist, pist. In an instant, the souls of the sea demons around him were torn apart and devoured, and they died without a sound. However, he continued to stride forward among the dead sea monsters. His footsteps seemed slow, but each time he landed, it was as if two spaces were overlapping. The distance he covered with each step was extremely terrifying. In just 2 or 3 steps, he had caught up with Mo Fan's true venerate and rushed in right behind him. Then came the extremely fast Kong Mo, followed by the Confucian god Wang Shuiji. Although Wang Shuiji was strong, speed was not his forte. Naturally, he was much slower than before. In just a short period of time, as a large number of sea monsters died, most of the primordial soul realm true cultivators rushed into the Dragon Palace. Whatever, since I'm already here, wouldn't it be a pity if I don't go to the Dragon Palace? Although Ziwe had already sensed that something was wrong with the altar, seeing that the entrance was getting smaller and smaller, and the speed at which it was recovering was getting faster and faster, if he delayed any longer, he might not even be able to step in. He could not help but clench his teeth. Lightning flashed on his body as he used the lightning escape ray. Pissed, he quickly rushed toward the altar and the hole in space. But before he could rush out, the flying sword in his body had already shot out. It was like a 7-colored stream of light, flashing past in a flash. Pust, pust, pust. One by one, the sea monsters in front of Ziwe were pierced by the flying sword and quickly fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, Ziwe rushed into the hole in space. Through the hole, Ziwe immediately saw the inside of the hole. About 30 to 50 feet away, there was a vague light circle. The light circle was the key to entering the Dragon Palace. It was the connection point between the Dragon Palace and the Star Realm. Sure enough, the entrance of the Dragon Palace has been moving. At first, it was just at the hole in space, but now it is more than 30 feet away. With this thought in mind, Ziwe's figure moved, and he immediately dashed in. Sizzle. He immediately felt a strange and terrifying force acting on his body. This was the effect of the space turbulence. Fortunately, it was not far from the star realm, and the space turbulence was not strong. It was not a threat to the experts at the God realm, so it naturally could not affect him. Not to mention, he had the 5 Emperors' royal robe on his body to protect him. Soon, he rushed to the light circle. At this moment, he seemed to have sensed something and suddenly turned his head, only to see a bright red light at the altar. How? Vaguely, the roar of a dragon could be heard. What's that? As Baizu's thoughts flashed, he rushed into Dragon Palace in the next moment. Is this the Dragon Palace? In the next moment, Baizu's heart skipped a beat as he looked around. He immediately spread out his mind consciousness and exerted the 5 Emperors' royal robe to the extreme. It was like an armor covering his whole body. What a strong suppressive force. Even with the strength of my mind consciousness, it can only spread to an area of 30 feet around me. Then, Ziwe felt a strong suppressive force of the formation, which made it difficult for his mind consciousness to leave his body. Then he saw the scene around him. Soon, he realized that he seemed to be in a magnificent and lofty palace. This palace was extremely huge, and most of it was built with crystal. It was magnificent. However, this crystal palace seemed to have experienced a great battle a long time ago. Most of it had collapsed. Looking from afar, there seemed to be bloodstains left. Poof! Vaguely, there was a shocking, evil spirit floating in the distance, which made him feel frightened. But were the people who rushed in before? Did they explore the surroundings as soon as they rushed in? Or is it that the entrance and exit actually has the power of a magic formation to send the people who enter to different parts of the Dragon Palace? Ziwe did not see any sea demons or human clan cultivators in his field of vision. Soon, he had a guess. His mind also relaxed. This was actually a good thing for him. He did not want to encounter a great battle before he could explore the Dragon Palace. In the Dragon Palace, there were many people who wanted to kill him. The environment here is really exquisite and beautiful. Ziwe strode along a corridor in front of him. Even under his feet, there were large pieces of crystal. These crystals were not ordinary objects. They contained a shocking amount of spiritual energy. The total amount of spiritual energy contained in each of them was no less than that of a high-grade spirit stone. This was truly a palace that was completely paved with spirit stones. That was to say, the whole palace was shrouded in a large formation, which was difficult to break. Otherwise, he would really try to dig out 1 or 2 pieces to see what was going on. It is really worthy of being the Dragon Palace where the true Dragon Clan, a top clan in ancient times, lived. There is no place that does not show their wealth. Even the rocks here were no ordinary objects. Some of them were even magical artifacts and spirit artifacts that have been pieced together. Although the effect isn't great, all of them are incomparably exquisite, giving people a pleasing feeling. Ziwe sighed inwardly. He had already opened his gravity shadow domain and moved forward carefully. Although the scenery in the Dragon Palace was beautiful, he also saw many traces of battle. In addition, in the Dragon Palace, he could encounter sea demons, giant whale immortal mansion, or demonic cultivators at any time. He naturally had to be careful and did not dare to be careless. Not to mention, the Dragon Palace itself was not necessarily a good place. The moment he stepped in, he vaguely felt a sense of threat, which made his eyelids twitch. Chapter 742. Obviously, there was an unknown danger in the Dragon Palace. It was enough to threaten his life. However, Ziwe did not stop exploring. Even though it was extremely dangerous, it was not his style to enter a treasure mountain empty-handed. Walking along the corridor, Ziwe soon came to the end. At the end of the corridor, there was a palace-like garden. However, at this moment, although this garden still maintained the magnificent scenery of the ancient times, it had obviously been damaged by the battle. Broken walls were scattered all over the place, and the spiritual flowers and plants that originally grew there had long withered, turning into a pitch-black appearance. It seemed to have condensed into a special spiritual aura, corroding the surrounding with thousands of holes. He carefully bypassed the place where the evil spirit was entangled. Although the evil spirit did not affect him much, he was not willing to spend time and effort to expel and defend. Soon, he officially stepped into the area where the palace was located. There were obviously more traces of battle. Suddenly, Ziyue's eyes lit up. He moved his body and stretched out his hand. Buzz! A magic weapon in the shape of a trident appeared in his hand. Low-grade magic weapon level? Its original level should be higher. It should be at least an upper-grade magic weapon, if not a top-grade magic weapon level. Unfortunately, after the passage of countless years, its spirituality has been constantly eroded. This magic weapon is only at the low-grade level, and it may fall again at any time and become a spiritual weapon. Ziyue looked at the trident in his hand and quickly made a judgment. He also roughly guessed that it was left behind by the sea demons in the Dragon Palace in ancient times. As Ziyue continued to move forward, the number of magic treasures on the ground increased significantly. Some of them were used by the sea demons and had an obvious aura of water property. Others were magic treasures that emitted a shocking evil spirit. If Ziyue guessed correctly, they should be the magic treasures used by the tribes that attacked the Dragon Palace. However, most of these magic weapons were damaged and broken. Even if some of them still retained some spirituality, their level had fallen to the extreme. It was good that they could maintain their magic weapon level. Among them, Ziyue found a trident magic weapon, which was at the upper grade level and was still intact, which made him feel a little surprised. However, I don't know what kind of enemy the real Dragon Clan encountered at that time. Even the Dragon Palace had been breached. According to the ancient records, the true Dragon Clan was one of the most powerful clans in the ancient times. In terms of strength, they were far more powerful than the combined forces of the 10 great immortal spell forces in the astral boundary. There was more than one surviving immortal Tao mighty figure. However, such a powerful ancient clan had its Dragon Palace breached and was exterminated in its heyday. Since then, the true Dragon Clan has rarely appeared in the outside world. The deeper he went, the more Ziyue sighed as he saw the majestic atmosphere of the palace. This was only the outer palaces of the entire Dragon Palace. As far as the eye could see, in the depths of the palace, there were countless palaces that were faintly visible, especially the one in the deepest part. It was tall and majestic and faintly emitted a shocking murderous aura and the tyrannical aura of a true dragon. Even though he was far away, he still felt a wave of shock. From this, it could be seen how powerful the true Dragon Clan was at its peak. However, such a powerful existence had encountered a great calamity and withered away until now. However, I don't know what kind of existence caused the true Dragon Clan to wither away. From the looks of those Dharma treasures containing shocking murderous aura, they seem to be used by demon cultivators. However, they are purer and more powerful than those used by demon cultivators. Could it be the legendary extraterritorial demon clan? Ziyue guessed and was soon shocked. The extraterritorial demon clan was a powerful clan outside the astral boundary. It was said that the true demon sect, the heavenly demon sect, and the limitless demon sect, the 3 great demon Tao sects, were created by the extraterritorial demon clan when they came to this world. Therefore, the various immortal spell forces had always been at odds with the demon Tao cultivators. There would be battles and killings between them. Wait. Suddenly, Ziyue faintly felt that something was wrong. He couldn't help but sweep his gaze around, especially when he saw the broken Dharma treasures scattered all over the place. His eyes finally revealed a trace of understanding. I was wondering why I felt that something was strange. Their journey here was too clean. Since there are Dharma treasures scattered all over the place, there are also traces of a great battle. However, why haven't I encountered the sea demons of the Dragon Palace that died in the great battle and the corpses of the existence that attacked the Dragon Palace? There were bound to be deaths and injuries in a battle. There would be corpses left behind. Perhaps there were victors who cleaned up the battlefield, but it was impossible for them to only collect the corpses of the sea demons and another clan and leave the Dharma treasures scattered all over the place. After all, no matter what, The value of these Dharma treasures was most likely higher than the corpses of the sea demons. Ziyue couldn't help but recall the trace of strangeness that he had sensed through the golden soul thread on the altar of the true Dragon Valley. When the corpses of the sea demons fell on the altar, a large amount of flesh and blood essence was silently stripped away. Although he was surprised, Ziyue didn't stop walking. Soon, he stepped into the hall. Above the door, a creature covered in scales with a strange appearance suddenly opened its eyes the moment Ziyue stepped in, and a scarlet color flashed. Kill! The strange creature was thin and long, resembling both a lizard and a true dragon. It was covered in scales and pitch black in color. The moment it sensed Ziyue, it quickly pounced on him. I saw you long ago. Although the suppression of the array formation here was strong, and even Ziyue could only sense a radius of 30 feet, his eyesight wasn't affected. Furthermore, he had always been cautious and didn't let his guard down at all. Therefore, the moment the other party moved, he reacted and his flying sword flashed. Taking advantage of the momentum, he shot out one sword to break all spells. With Ziyue's current strength, even a casual attack was comparable to the full strength attack of a peak golden elixir realm expert. When he executed the perfect one sword to break all spells, its power naturally exceeded that of a golden elixir realm expert and was comparable to the full strength attack of a peak primordial soul realm expert. Poof! The flying sword landed on the head of the strange creature and instantly penetrated it. The terrifying destructive power went through the wound and wantonly destroyed its body. Soon, its vitality was completely extinguished. What kind of creature is this? Although he was easily killed by me, that was only because my attack power was too strong. Even a mid-stage golden elixir realm cultivator wouldn't be able to easily break through its physical defense. Moreover, the chi in its body was very strange, as if it contained an endless amount of death chi. Only by breaking through the endless death chi would I be able to truly threaten the vitality at its core. Ziyue was a little surprised. This creature didn't belong to any species that he knew of. Its life signs were also completely different from the creatures of the astral realm. Could it be that it's like the star beasts in the stellar origin Divine Mountain and belongs to the upper realm or the demonic realm? Ziyue was a little puzzled. However, he was even more certain of his previous guess. I don't know how such a creature can survive here for so long. Fortunately, after killing this strange creature, my spiritual energy has increased. Obviously, it's also a kind of creature that has a soul. Although the amount of spiritual energy increased is far less than the sea demons of the same realm, it's only about half. Ziyue judged that although the strange creature's defense was extremely strong, its life level was comparable to the sea demons of the golden elixir realm. Therefore, he quickly came to a conclusion. In order to make it easier to remember, he gave it a name, the black-scaled lizard demon. Soon, Ziyue continued to go deeper. His divine sense spread out. To him, a distance of 3 feet was almost no different from being three-dimensional. Therefore, he couldn't help but drive the strands of golden soul silk in his soul. The golden soul silk was some of the accumulation after his soul was perfected and his cultivation method improved. It was formed after special compression and transformation. It was naturally unusual. Under the effect of the golden spiritual silk by Ziyue's divine sense and perceptive power instantly increased. It expanded from the original 3 zhang to 10 times, reaching a range of 3 zhang. Not only did the scene in the distance have nowhere to hide from his eyes, but even the scene behind some buildings couldn't escape his perception. At this moment, he happened to be outside the door of a side hall of the outer palace. The door of the side hall was slightly open with a crack. Looking from afar, the crack was bright, as if there was an extraordinary treasure emitting light. In fact, where Ziyue's gaze fell, he did see that there was a treasure scattered on the ground behind the door. It was a fist-sized round bead that was golden in color. Although it was a little dim now, when Ziyue's gaze fell on the round bead, his heart trembled. He immediately determined the identity of the round bead. Dragon Pearl. This was a unique treasure unique to the true dragon clan, the Dragon Pearl. Not only did it contain the endless true dragon chi of the True Dragon clan, it was also a supreme treasure that they used to fight with their lives. Its value was infinite. For a cultivator, whether it was used to refine pills or to refine weapons, it could display unimaginable magical effects. If the Dragon Pearl contained a trace of the dragon soul of the True Dragon clan, it could be integrated into a cultivator's natal magic treasure. It could even cause the magic treasure to develop spirituality and have the possibility of automatically upgrading into a spirit treasure. In fact, this was also the reason why the True Dragon clan had far more numinous treasures than ordinary P clans. The True Dragon clan was too rich. Not only did they have the habit of collecting unique treasures, but they themselves were also full of treasures. Judging from the size of the Dragon Pearl in front of Ziyue, it could only be born from a true dragon at the primordial soul realm. The Dragon Pearl of a true dragon at the primordial soul realm. Ziyue's breathing was a little rapid. Although his life flying sword had already developed spirituality and had the possibility of becoming a numinous treasure, if it could be integrated into this Dragon Pearl, especially if it still contained a trace of the true dragon's soul, it would definitely increase the spirituality of his North Sea flying sword greatly. Naturally, the speed of upgrading to a higher level would also increase greatly. It could even directly skip the level of a supreme grade golden core treasure and upgrade to an immortal soul treasure. However, at this moment, Ziyue's consciousness was greatly enhanced with the help of the golden spiritual threads. At the same time as he sensed the Dragon Pearl, he also discovered that there were countless black scaled lizard demons crouching at the side of the door. After a careful count, there were actually more than 10 of them. If I rush in excitedly when I see the Dragon Pearl, I will definitely be surrounded by these black scaled lizard demons. If more than 10 of them attack together, even an early-stage primordial soul realm cultivator would be at a disadvantage if I am not careful. Among the golden core realm cultivators, even emperor-level cultivators would be in danger of dying. Ziyue sensed all of this and indeed felt that the golden spiritual threads were helping him. It allowed him to predict the enemy's moves first. At least in this dangerous dragon palace, it was extremely useful. It's a pity that the golden spiritual threads in my soul are too little. If I continue to use it like this, it can only last for 30 breaths at most. After 30 breaths, it will be exhausted. If I want to recover it, it will be much more difficult than using ordinary soul power. Even with my attribute panel, it will not be that easy to recover it. I have to recover ordinary soul power first, and then use the soul power to transform it. It is impossible to recover to the peak in an instant. As Ziyue calculated, he fearlessly approached the door of the side hall. As Ziyue approached, the black scaled lizard demons that were quietly lurking at the side of the door also silently opened their eyes at this moment. However, before they had the chance to do anything, something happened. However, Ziyue had already made his move. With a thought, the flying sword in his body quickly rushed out. It evolved into a sword to break all skills. Along the crack of the side palace door, it flashed. Puff, puff, puff. It turned into a stream of light and quickly pierced towards the black-scaled lizard demons. Fast, extremely fast. These black-scaled lizard demons were extremely strong, and their speed was actually not slow. However, compared to Ziyue's flying sword, they were too slow. Before they could react, the black-scaled lizard demons' heads were pierced through one by one. The power of destruction contained in the flying swords even broke through the dense aura of death in their bodies and rushed to their cores, completely wiping out their last sliver of life. Instantly, a dozen or so black-scaled lizard demons were completely annihilated before they could even react. Then, Ziyue slowly approached the door of the side palace and reached out to push the door. Buzz! The heavy door was quickly pushed open. Ziyue's eyes immediately swept across the main palace. He found that the damage inside was more serious than outside. A large number of buildings had collapsed, and even a crystal pillar was completely broken. Previously, there was indeed a true dragon that had fallen here. Although its flesh and blood has disappeared, its scattered scales, the true dragon horn, and most importantly, the dragon pearl are still here. Ziyue's eyes swept across and soon found something. He waved his hand and collected the scattered treasures on the ground. First, his eyes fell on the scales. Although the true dragon's aura was very weak, it was indeed different from that of ordinary monsters. It was very unique and contained a special pattern that was very compatible with the Great Way, as if it was the manifestation of the Great Way. Chapter 743. As expected of the divine beast clan, the darling of heaven and earth, every single scale on its body is a manifestation of Tao law. Of course, this has something to do with the fact that the scale is unusual. If I'm not wrong, this scale should be the reverse scale on the real dragon. It protects the vital parts of the real dragon, so naturally, it's much tougher than ordinary scales. Ziyue couldn't help but sigh. He reached out and pinched it. He could feel the toughness of the scale. Even a supreme gold core treasure might not be as tough as this palm-sized scale in terms of toughness. If it was used to refine a defensive Dharma treasure, it would probably be able to withstand a blow from a king. Then, Ziyue's cotton-padded trousers landed on the horn of the real dragon. There were obviously more Tao Law secret inscriptions on the horn of the real dragon than the reverse scale. After careful inspection, he even vaguely felt a trace of Tao technique. The horn of the real dragon is indestructible and is a natural Dharma treasure. The horn of the real dragon at the primordial soul realm is comparable to a primordial soul realm treasure. In addition, the Tao technique contained in the horn is mysterious. If I spend time comprehending it, I can even comprehend a Tao technique. Its value is even higher than that of the Dragon Ball. Ziyue was a little excited. By now, ordinary Dharma treasures and remarkable powers could no longer make him excited. The horn of the real dragon, which contained the mystery of Tao technique, was something that he lacked. Naturally, he was excited. Then, his gaze fell on the Dragon Ball, and a trace of disappointment flashed across his eyes. After a long time, the energy in the Dragon Ball had been depleted by more than half. Most importantly, there was no Dragon Soul aura left in it, so its value was greatly reduced. However, whether it's for refining pills or weapons, the Dragon Ball can play a huge role. It's just that it can't add spirituality to my natal Dharma treasure. Ziyue thought to himself. Just as he was about to keep it, he suddenly thought of the dragon egg that he had placed in the northern underworld grotto heaven. He had obtained the dragon egg when he had participated in the star token assessment in the Chuanyan Immortal City and killed the dragon at the peak of the God Realm. Because it hadn't hatched, Ziyue had left it in the northern underworld grotto heaven to be taken care of. This Jiao dragon possessed a trace of the true dragon's bloodline. If he could obtain this dragon pearl, he might be able to speed up the hatching of the Jiao dragon. Moreover, he could purify the power of the Jiao dragon's bloodline and increase its potential. He could even tame it and turn it into the divine guardian beast of the Dark North sect. Thus, with a thought, he flicked his finger and instantly threw the Dragon Ball to the side of the flood dragon egg. As the aura of a true dragon spread, Ziyue could clearly feel that the originally exuberant life force within the flood dragon egg had become even more turbulent. A confused yet excited emotion was also emitted. Judging from the situation, it won't take long for it to hatch. Ziyue shifted his thoughts away from the northern underworld grotto heaven. Ziyue didn't stay in the side hall for long. Along the corridor on the other side, he rushed to another palace. The second palace was obviously much larger than the previous one. However, the traces of battle were also more obvious. Not only had the main palace collapsed, but the palace's array was also severely damaged. Therefore, he could enter and exit most of the places freely. However, what made his face a little gloomy was that it was obvious that someone had been here before. Even the broken magic treasures had been taken away. Apart from killing more than 10 black-scaled lizard demons, he had gained nothing. Fortunately, killing the black-scaled lizard demons still gave me some soul energy. In addition, the scales on their bodies are also good stuff. It's not like I've gained nothing. However, it's obvious that there are a lot of black-scaled lizard demons in this dragon palace. Even if there are some relatively weak ones, the weakest one is comparable to the early Golden Core realm. In addition, they live in groups. Ordinary Golden Core realm practitioners or sea demons would be in trouble if they encounter them. Ziwa comforted himself and glanced at the attribute panel. He could clearly feel that the amount of soul energy in his body had increased tremendously. When he first entered the Dragon Palace, he only had a few tens of millions of spiritual energy left, but now it had soared to 500 million. Perhaps it would not be long before he could accumulate 800 million spiritual energy and completely raise his immortal technique realm to the peak of the golden elixir realm. Once my immortal technique realm is upgraded to the peak of the golden core realm, my strength will definitely increase greatly. By then, apart from the unknown dangers in the Dragon Palace, I should be able to face the threat of any sea demons or practitioners in this place. Ziwa was silently looking forward to it. At this moment, if he used the 9 Extinction Divine Sword, his attack power would have reached the first level of the late Primordial Soul Realm. It would be extremely strong. If his Immortal Technique realm was upgraded again, it would not be a problem for his attack power to reach the peak of the Primordial Soul Realm. Naturally, he wouldn't be afraid of facing any Primordial Soul Realm experts in this place. Apart from the threats in the Dragon Palace itself, the unknown was the scariest. In addition, the Dragon Palace was still shrouded in a powerful array. He naturally had to be extra careful. Ziwa didn't stay in this palace and continued to go deeper. The third palace had relatively fewer traces of battle. However, Ziwa noticed that there were obviously more black-scaled lizard demons here than in the previous 2 palaces. There were dozens of them. Moreover, Ziwa finally found traces of other sea demons here. However, they were all dead and their corpses were scattered on the ground. However, the essence of their flesh and blood was also devoured by an unknown force, just like on the altar. Is this Dragon Palace also related to the altar in the True Dragon Valley? Or is the array in this Dragon Palace already controlled by that unknown entity? Ziwa was shocked. He looked at the group of black-scaled lizard demons in the distance. However, he didn't hesitate and continued to attack. Even though there was obviously one black-scaled lizard demon that was stronger than the others and comparable to a king. However, they couldn't block a single attack from his flying sword. After a few breaths, the group of black-scaled lizard demons were all killed by him. In order to prevent their corpses from becoming nutrients for that unknown entity like the other sea demons, he naturally kept them in the North Underworld Grotto Heaven and let the North Underworld sect disciples deal with them. Boom! At this moment, Ziwa heard a rumbling sound. There's someone in front. Ziwa was shocked. Then he activated the gravity shadow domain to the extreme and rushed out like a bolt of lightning. Ziwa silently arrived in front of a huge palace. Just from the outside, the entire palace was obviously much larger than the other palaces he had passed before. However, this palace didn't seem to have undergone much damage. The protective array was relatively intact. However, it was also because of this that this palace was very valuable in the eyes of others. Therefore, there were experts wantonly attacking the array of the palace. They wanted to break the array and rush in to steal the treasures. It's Ao bin Demon King from the Black Water Dragon clan and the Black Octopus Demon King from the Thousand Fish clan. There are also more than 10 Golden Core Sea Demons from other Sea Demon clans. After Ziwa got closer, he quickly recognized them. Ao bin Demon King and the Black Octopus Demon King were both in the early stage of the Primordial Soul Realm. Together with a group of Golden Core Sea Demons, their attacks landed on the array and caused it to rumble. However, the defensive array of this palace was obviously unusual. Even if they attacked together, the strength of their attacks was comparable to that of a mid-stage Primordial Soul Realm expert. However, they only caused the array to dim slightly. It would probably take a while for them to break it open. More people are coming? Ziwa was about to attack and kill this group of sea demons when he suddenly looked into the distance in shock. Whoosh whoosh. In an instant, two figures dashed toward him. Ha! We're in luck. We actually found a palace with an intact array. Get lost. This place has been taken by us. Otherwise, don't blame us for being rude. Following their arrival, two arrogant voices could be heard. Great Moon Demon and Six-Fingered True Demon of the Limitless Demon Sect, A.O. Bin Demon King, and the Black Octopus Demon King were both shocked. One of them was at the mid-stage Primordial Soul Realm, while the other was at the early-stage Primordial Soul Realm. Their strength was not weak. However, the two Demon Kings had extraordinary bloodline talents. Seeing that the other party's strength was similar to theirs, they relaxed and could not help but say disdainfully, "With just the two of you, what if I join in?" At that moment, a faint voice sounded. Immediately after, another figure rushed out from the other side. It was a figure dressed in a black robe. He had a head of white hair that was almost draped over his shoulders and covered his face. It was the demonic Tao cultivator, Myriad Moon True Demon. At that moment, there were three demonic Tao cultivators gathered here. Furthermore, Myriad Moon True Demon's strength and reputation surpassed that of Great Moon Demon, who was at the mid-stage Primordial Soul Realm. A.O. Bin Demon King and the Black Octopus Demon King's hearts sank. Just as they were hesitating, they saw Myriad Moon True Demon's eyes turn cold. Immediately after, sharp blades that looked like crescent moons swept towards them. At the same time, Great Moon Demon and Six-Fingered True Demon attacked together. The three Primordial Soul Realm demonic Tao cultivators had extraordinary strength. They cooperated well, and their attacks were extremely sharp. Run! The two Demon Kings' expressions changed. Without any hesitation, they quickly dispelled the shape-shifting technique and revealed their true forms. A huge black dragon and a huge octopus quickly appeared in the void. Oh, beams of crystal light suddenly shot out from the two Demon Kings' bodies. Then, like a flash of lightning, they quickly rushed into the distance. Do you think you can escape? Myriad Moon True Demon's voice reverberated through heaven and earth. Crescent moons fell like rain, shrouding an area of a few hundred feet around them before suddenly falling. The mighty crescent moons slashed down, filling every corner of the surroundings and completely enveloping the two Demon Kings. The other two demonic Tao cultivators also attacked separately, their attacks even faster. Oh no! The strength of this 10,000 moons true demon was indeed worthy of its reputation. The crescent moons can attack from afar and defend at close range. They can even form a trapping formation to restrain us. If we are surrounded, I will not be able to escape death even if I use all my strength. Not to mention, Great Moon Demon and Six-Fingered True Demon are watching us covetously. A.O. Bin Demon King was furious. He knew very well that he was in a very dangerous situation. Immediately, a beam of blood light shot out from his body. He did not hesitate to use a desperate technique. At the same time, he stretched out his huge dragon claws. Chi, the Black Octopus Demon King, who had also used a desperate technique and whose body was emitting endless lightning, suddenly stopped. Then, he was pulled in front of the Black Octopus Demon King. A blood-colored saber quickly slashed at Black Octopus Demon King. Seizing this opportunity, he quickly dodged and broke free from the lock of the blood-red long blade. Facing the crescent moon blade, he rushed into the distance. A.O. Bin, Black Octopus Demon King, was both shocked and furious. He did not expect that A.O. Bin, who had just joined forces with him, would attack him without hesitation and use him to block Great Moon Demon's attack. His heart turned cold. He immediately roared, "If I can't escape, don't think you can either." The tentacles on A.O. Bin's body instantly expanded and grabbed A.O. Bin's tail with a tight grip. Damn it! A.O. Bin Demon King's body stopped moving. His ferocious dragon head immediately became even uglier. He hurriedly used his origin power to break free from the tentacles. However, it was still too late. Endless crescent blades slashed down. Even though his physical defense was extremely strong, he could not block the endless crescent blades of Wanyue Demon King. Not to mention, although the crescent blades in Wanyue Demon King's hands seemed to have weakened, the crescent blades had always been under his control. They could instantly materialize and deliver a fatal blow. At this moment, Wanyue Demon King controlled the crescent blades to become one and flashed like a stream of light. Chi! Aobin Demon King's head flew into the sky. His primordial spirit had just rushed out of his head when it was ruthlessly twisted by the crescent blades and turned into ashes. Dead. What was laughable was that he had used up all his tricks but died before Black Octopus Demon King. Of course, Black Octopus Demon King did not escape death. He was killed by Great Moon Demon and Six-Fingered True Demon at the same time. As for the group of Golden Core Realm Sea Demons, they were unable to retaliate against the crescent blades and died one after another. It's really foolish to take it seriously. Aobin Demon King is actually not weak. If he really fought with his life on the line, it would be extremely difficult for us to stop him if he really wanted to escape. Unfortunately, he was too good at scheming and ended up being the victim of his own cleverness. The two great demon kings pulled at each other and lost their chance to escape. They died one after another. Great Moon Demon looked at the corpses of the two great demon kings on the ground with an excited expression. This battle had been too easy. Even he himself was a little surprised. They were hostile to each other to begin with. Entering the Dragon Palace was only a temporary cooperation. Of course, they would scheme against each other in the face of danger. However, we benefited from it. Wanyue Demon King smiled and waved his hand slightly, putting away the storage bags of the two great demon kings. He was the strongest person present. According to the rules of the demonic sex, the spoils of war naturally belonged to him. The other two demonic cultivators did not dare to say anything when they saw this. Chapter 744. The most important thing is still this true dragon palace. A true dragon palace with an intact array formation must have a lot of good stuff inside. We can give up the spoils of the two monster kings, but the treasures in this palace are different. Heavenly Demon Dayo looked at the palace in front of him, but his eyes were fixed on Wanyue True Demon. The spoils of war from the two demon kings were also very generous. However, not only did the Wanyue True Demon put in the most effort in this battle, his strength was also far superior to the two demon kings. Therefore, even if the Wanyue True Demon wanted to take the spoils for himself, they did not dare to say anything. However, the treasures in this unexplored true dragon palace were definitely better than the spoils of the monster kings, and they were naturally unwilling to give it up. That's right. Although the six-fingered true demon did not say much, his attitude was very clear. What you can get is up to your own abilities, and I will not snatch it from you. The 10,000 Moons Devil looked back at the two of them coldly. He snorted and said, "Moreover, the formation hasn't been broken yet. We haven't even seen the treasure yet. Isn't it too early to talk about this? Do you want to be like Monster King Aobin, starting an internal conflict in the face of a great battle and becoming a laughingstock? Moreover, it will benefit others for no reason. Don't you think so, fellow cultivator?" As he said that, Wanyue True Demon turned his gaze and looked in a direction with a faint smile. "Someone's there? Who is it?" Heavenly Demon Dayo and Six-Fingered True Demon were shocked, and they quickly looked in the direction Wanyue True Demon was looking. We've been discovered?" Ziyue was shocked, but he was not too surprised. His gravitational shadow domain was strong, and it was a perfect great theurgy that had been cultivated to the great perfection stage. Under normal circumstances, even primordial soul realm experts would not be able to detect it if they did not deliberately investigate. However, a great theurgy was still a great theurgy, and it could not affect the laws of heaven and earth like a Tao technique. Naturally, it could not completely hide one's body and stay in the deep world. That was why Wanyue Devil True Demon had been so careful and meticulous in his search that he had revealed a trace of himself. As expected of the 10,000 Moons True Demon, not only is he powerful, but his probing abilities are also extraordinary. Ziyue laughed heartily and gradually stepped out of his hiding place. Late-stage Golden Core Realm? How is that possible? The smile on the 10,000 Moon's true devil's face suddenly froze, revealing a look of disbelief. It was because Ziyue's concealment technique was too powerful. Even he had to deliberately investigate before he could detect a trace of Ziyue's presence. Only then did he come to this conclusion. Therefore, he instinctively thought that the other party must be an Essence Soul Realm expert like him. In the end, the immortal spell realm that the other party revealed to him was only at the late-stage Golden Core Realm. Another thing worth mentioning was that Ziyue's current expression was too calm. He was not like an ordinary Golden Core Realm cultivator, which also shocked him. Big Moon, Heavenly Demon, and Six-Fingered True Devil were also shocked when they saw this, and their gazes became extremely strange. His concealment technique was extraordinary, but his cultivation level was so low. This was beyond their expectations. Most importantly, the expression on Ziyue's face was too calm. He did not look like a normal Golden Core Realm cultivator who would be terrified when they encountered them. "You are Taoist, Northming." The 10,000 Fish True Devil suddenly thought of something and exclaimed. His cultivation level was low, but his strength was extraordinary. He was able to remain so calm in the face of 3 Essence Soul Realm demonic cultivators. He was definitely extraordinary and rare. After thinking about it, he could only think of Taoist Northming, who had recently become famous. After all, Taoist Northming had the battle record of killing immortals and Essence Soul Realm cultivators. It was very normal for him to have such a performance. Taoist Northming, Big Moon, Heavenly Demon, and Six-Fingered True Devil revealed a look of understanding when they heard this, and they carefully sized up Ziyue. Recently, rumors about Taoist Northming had spread throughout the entire Star Realm. All the major immortal spell factions had heard about him. They did not expect to meet him in the Dragon Palace. "I didn't expect my reputation to be so widespread." Ziyue glanced at them and said in surprise, "Taoist Northming's name is indeed very famous. It can be said that you are the most shocking and talented expert who has risen in the past 100 years. It's a pity that your legend will come to an end from now on." Wangyue True Demon nodded sincerely. Then, he changed his tone and said coldly, "Because you're going to die in my hands." As he spoke, he waved his hand. 10,000 crescent moon blade slashes covered an area of several thousand feet like rain, and they quickly shot towards Ziyue. It was the superior Essence Soul Realm treasure that had made the 10,000 Fish True Devil famous, the Crescent Moonblade. Ziyue had watched the entire battle between the 10,000 Moon True Devil and Demon King Aobin. Although it was very short, he had a rough estimate of the 10,000 Moon True Devil strength, the first tier of the intermediate Essence Soul Realm. Such strength was naturally considered extremely strong. At the very least, among the mid-stage Primordial Spirit Realm, he was at the top of the ladder, comparable to Wang Xueji of the 9-Star Palace and Mo Fan of the Celestial Spirit Sect. He was not weak. However, Ziyue's current strength was even stronger, especially after his cultivation had broken through to the advanced Golden Core Realm. His strength in all aspects had increased significantly. His accumulation was really too deep and profound. A perfect Violet Golden Core, a perfect Great Superpower, a perfect Tao Technique. Just the perfected Amethyst Golden Elixir alone was enough to increase his Jindan essence to the level of an early stage or even mid-stage Primordial Spirit expert. Coupled with his perfected Great Mystique, his speed, defense, attack power, and reaction speed were on par with those of a mid-stage Primordial Spirit expert. If the perfect Tao Technique, the primary Magnetic Divine Light, and the 9 Extinction Divine Sword were included, these 2 Tao techniques had greatly increased his strength, especially his attack power. He had reached the first tier of the Advanced Essence Soul Realm. The 9 Extinction Divine Sword, in particular, was only a hair's breadth away from the pinnacle of the Essence Soul Realm. Therefore, facing the crescent moon blade slash, Ziyue went with the flow and summoned the flying sword from his body. Qi, the Tao technique seed in his body, emitted a scorching light. In a flash, as the core essence in his body surged into it, it quickly evolved into a mysterious spiritual light that surged into the flying sword. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Then, streaks of incomparably sharp sword light that seemed to be able to cut through the rivers of time rushed out. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Pretty much in an instant, the crescent moon blade slash from 10,000 Moon True Demon was destroyed. At the same time as the countless crescent moon blade slash were destroyed, the flying sword itself rushed out in a flash. It was fast and extremely strange. It seemed to be wandering in the depths of the void. Even an Essence Soul Realm expert would find it difficult to detect its trajectory. Under the perception of their consciousness, they would only feel that there was nothing in front of them. It was truly unfathomable, even transforming into formless Tao. So fast, so powerful. How is this possible? The crescent moon blade slash had extraordinary eyesight. Almost immediately, he sensed that Ziyue's sword was unusual. That kind of power, that kind of speed, that kind of unpredictability. Even though he had seen it before, he had only seen it in the hands of top Essence Soul Realm experts. However, which one of those existences wasn't renowned? They were much more formidable than him, and they were already at the top of the world since a long time ago. So, they rarely made a move. But at this moment, he had seen it in the hands of a Golden Core Realm cultivator. Most importantly, the opponent's attack was aimed at him. Its eyelids twitched, and its heart, which had remained calm ever since it reached the Golden Core stage, suddenly began to thump violently. Thoughts flashed through its mind in a frenzy, and it could not care about anything else. It could only push its defensive measures to the limit. A black armor silently appeared on his body. A silver round mirror evolved into the shape of a taiji and turned into two fish in front of him. A black bead exploded in front of him, turning into a cloud of black mist that enveloped him. He also used a desperate technique. Black light flickered on his body as he used half of his chi and blood to retreat frantically. The myriad moon's devil's reaction couldn't be said to be slow, and its preparations couldn't be said to be insufficient. Using all kinds of defensive techniques, it couldn't be said to be unsteady. However, when Ziyue's flying sword neared, a boundless baleful aura swept up and attacked. The outer layer of mist was the first to disperse. The flying sword then tapped on the round mirror of the taiji fish. With a crisp pop, the round mirror, which was a low-grade soul formation treasure, cracked and shattered. After that, the flying sword did not lose any momentum and landed on the black armor. The black armor was a secret treasure that Wanyue True Demon had obtained by chance in his early days. The reason why he had been able to grow to the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm was due to the fact that the black armor had played a huge role in his growth. It was his protective treasure that had helped him avoid countless dangers. It was also where his confidence lay. However, when Bai Ziyue's flying sword landed on the black armor, the flying sword of Bai Ziyue was stunned. Poof! It was as if there was no resistance at all. It pierced through the armor like a hot knife through butter and pierced through his entire body. Boom! The terrifying sword chi exploded and quickly obliterated his flesh and blood. Naturally, this included his nascent spirit. He's dead. He's dead? Wanyue True Demon is dead? He died at the hands of Taoist North Ming? How is this possible? Everything had happened too quickly. From the moment Wanyue True Demon made the first move to Ziyue's counterattack, both of them had only used one attack. However, in the face of Ziyue's sword, Wanyue True Demon could not block it even if he used all his skills and his defensive techniques to the maximum. He was directly destroyed and annihilated. This was too powerful. Dewang Heavenly Demon and Six-Fingered True Demon turned pale in disbelief. Wanyue True Demon's strength was obvious to all. Even if the two of them joined forces, they were still no match for him. However, such a powerful person, Wanyue True Demon, who was considered the strongest among the demonic cultivators, had died at the hands of Taoist Northming. Then, just how powerful had his strength reached? Was he in the late primordial spirit realm, or even stronger? An endless sense of fear surged into their hearts in an instant, and a sense of despair appeared in their hearts. It's all in vain. At this moment, Bai Ziyue's somewhat indifferent voice was heard. With a wave of his hand, he put away Wanyue, true demon spoils of war. Then, his gaze landed on Do Wang, heavenly demon, and six-fingered true demon. The two primordial spirit, realm, demonic cultivators' hearts trembled. Then, they forced a stiff smile and said, Senior Northming, we don't have much to do with Wanyue, true demon. We don't care if he dies or not. Yes. Also, this Dragon Palace immortal abode is yours. We won't touch it. We'll leave immediately. The two demonic cultivators panicked, and their faces turned pale. Leave? Do you think you can leave? Ziyue glanced at the two demonic cultivators and attacked without hesitation. Not to mention that Devil Dao experts had always been vicious and vicious. Their actions were against the harmony of heaven and earth. Even if they were not irreconcilable with cultivators, they were absolutely in a natural position of opposition. However, for the sake of this Dragon Palace immortal mansion, he could not allow the two to leave at this time. Otherwise, it would be troublesome for him if he provoked even more experts to charge at him. Although he believed that he was very powerful, he could not guarantee that he could defeat all the powerful cultivators here. At the very least, he was not confident that he could defeat Fu Yun Fan, the soul-devouring demon supremacy, and one or two top demon kings on the sea demon side. After all, although his offensive power was very strong, in terms of speed and defense, he was not as good as a true late-stage primordial spirit realm cultivator. Run! The two demonic cultivators looked at each other and unleashed their full strength without hesitation. They dashed in two opposite directions. They knew very well that Ziyue's strength was far superior to theirs. Even the Wanyue true demon was no match for him, let alone them. Therefore, they had already accumulated their strength when they spoke. Now that they had unleashed their strength, they were as fast as lightning. However, Bai Ziyue's speed was even faster. The two of them had just moved when they suddenly felt their heads stiffen. They felt endless pain in their primordial spirits, causing them to feel dizzy. It was Ziyue's absent-mindedness that he had used. With the strength of his soul, although the absent-mindedness was not weak, it was still not enough to pose a threat to the two primordial spirit realm demonic cultivators. However, when Ziyue used his absent-mindedness and infused it with the golden soul silk that was produced after his soul was perfected, the power of his absent-mindedness increased tremendously. Although it was not enough to cause the two of them to fall into a state of confusion, it caused their speed to slow down slightly. Quick! The two of them endured the pain and increased their speed rapidly. However, all of a sudden, they felt the space around them congeal slightly as two streaks of spiritual light fell upon their bodies. In an instant, they felt that the primordial spirit power in their bodies was sealed. Their speed that had been increasing was greatly reduced once again. It was Ziyue who had used the great forbidden spirit technique. Oh no! The two of them turned pale. They used all their strength and finally regained control of their own strength. Chapter 745. However, before the joy in their hearts could rise, they felt their vision turn black. They had entered an inexplicable forbidden world. It was Ziyue's perfect great prodigy, heaven and earth in the sleeve. After he used the heaven and earth in the sleeve, rays of sword light fell and turned into a huge sword-shaped cage, sealing the surrounding area. Perfect great divine power, 5 Emperor Heaven's sealing sword. Various trapping techniques were used one by one. No matter how hard the Great Moon Demon and the Six-Fingered True Demon struggled, they could not break free and fell into complete despair. Then, Ziyue used a single sword to break all spells and struck their heads, killing them one by one. He took the opportunity to collect their spoils of war. In addition to the spoils of war from the 10,000 Moons True Demon, Ao, Ben Demon King, and the Black Octopus Demon King, Ziyue already had the storage bags of 5 Primordial Soul Realm experts. If he counted the spoils of war from the huge sea demon clans that he had annihilated along the way, he had even more spoils of war. Of course, at the critical moment of entering the Dragon Palace, he could not spend time to count them. Therefore, he just waved his hand and kept them in the treasure space that belonged to him in the Northern Underworld Grotto Heaven. The entire Northern Underworld Grotto Heaven was under his control. Naturally, he could open up a space to store his items. Many items that were useful to him were relatively precious or had not been disposed of. He threw most of them here. After all, although the Northern Underworld sect was also a sect that he had founded, he had to separate his personal items from the sect's items. This time, I have gained a lot of soul energy. 5 Primordial Spirit Realm powerhouses, a dozen Golden Core Realm sea demons, and the deaths of other sea demons and cultivators in other places actually caused my soul energy to soar by another notch, rising from a little over 500 million to 798 million. 800 million? My soul energy has reached 800 million? Ziyue took a look at his attribute panel. At first, it was only slightly more than 798 million, but in the blink of an eye, it had soared to more than 800 million, an increase of more than 3 million. Obviously, during this period, another godly realm sea demon had died. However, this was indeed a good thing for Ziyue. Now that my soul energy has reached 800 million points, does that mean that I can take this opportunity to raise the level of my mortal arts and officially ascend to the peak of the Golden Elixir realm? Ziyue looked at the status panel. It was the cultivation progress of the Supreme Primordial Tao technique. Previously, he had already lowered his soul power to 60% of the late stage and was only 40% away from perfection. He needed exactly 800 million soul power to officially reach perfection. Now that he had sufficient spiritual energy, he could not wait any longer. Raising his immortal art realm to the peak of the Golden Elixir realm would greatly increase his strength, especially in the Dragon Palace, which was full of dangers and could contain dangers. Thinking of this, he no longer hesitated and his eyes fell on the attribute panel. By spending 800 million soul energy points, I can raise the Supreme Origin Tao late stage from 60% to 100% perfection. Upgrade. Ziyue gritted his teeth. In the blink of an eye, the spiritual energy on his attribute panel decreased greatly, from more than 800 million to only 3 million. To the current by Ziyue, this amount of spiritual energy was pitifully little. He reckoned that just one recovery of the core essence would be enough to deplete this spiritual energy. However, Ziyue was not too worried. This was because he knew that as time passed, his soul power would continue to increase. In the perilous Dragon Palace, even experts of the Golden Elixir realm and even the Primordial Spirit realm could die, let alone those godly realm sea demons. Then he felt a jolt in his heart. Countless experiences and insights regarding the cultivation of the Supreme Primordial Tao flashed through his mind one by one, and he seemed to have gone through countless years of cultivation and directly cultivated the Supreme Primordial Tao technique to perfection. The Supreme Primordial Tao technique has reached perfection, and there is no room for improvement. And my immortal technique realm has also broken through from the late Golden Elixir realm to the perfection Golden Elixir realm. Ziyue slowly opened his eyes and felt his current state. After the improvement of the realm, the surge of power, and the feeling of everything in the world being under his control made him feel carefree. There is also an extreme desire to destroy everything that was in front of him. Thus, he naturally struck out with a blow. This strike was a strike of pure strength. He did not use any divine skills or Taoist techniques. It was just an instinctive strike. It was a blow of the combination of his physical body and the Tao, primordial Tao technique. He struck out with one hand. Rumble. The void trembled, as if there was a resonance with the surrounding heaven and earth. An endless mystery was produced in his palm. This mystery, combined with the power of his physical body and the Tao, primordial Tao technique, formed a huge and shocking handprint. The handprint fell and fiercely blasted on the large array that shrouded the palace in front of him. Buzz! 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 The large array trembled, and the spiritual light quickly dimmed. After a long while, the large array began to operate instinctively and began to recover. This blow should be equivalent to the full force of a mid-primordial spirit realm expert. Ziwa silently compared and could not help but come to a conclusion. Although this attack didn't contain any Tao arts or divine abilities, it was still very powerful. Putting aside the fact that Bai Ziwe's physical strength and Jindan essence had reached a very pure and refined level after his breakthrough in the realm of immortal cultivation, just his understanding of the laws of heaven and earth, as well as his understanding of various great divine abilities and Tao techniques, even a casual strike from him would contain endless mysteries. This was a kind of accumulation that he had accumulated since he started cultivating, and it was an instinctive and optimal integration of his own strength. Therefore, even if he didn't use any great divine ability or Tao technique, his attack was still extremely powerful and terrifying. What if I use a divine powers? How powerful will it be? Ziyue controlled the flying sword almost without hesitation. Buzz! The flying sword trembled and then turned into a ray of flowing light, evolving the perfect divine powers, one sword to destroy all techniques, and struck out viciously. Rumble! The large array shook again and dimmed to the extreme, as if 80% of its power had been destroyed. However, the protective array of the palace was indeed extraordinary. Even after countless years, it was still in perfect condition. Most importantly, it seemed to contain an endless amount of energy that could grow and multiply endlessly. As Bai Ziyue's flying sword flew back, the sword's energy also quickly recovered. In just 3 or 4 breaths, it had recovered half of its power. In a few more breaths, it would probably be able to fully recover and reach its peak. With my current strength, the one sword to destroy all techniques attack may not be at the level of a peak primordial spirit realm expert, but it is at least equivalent to a late primordial spirit realm expert's second-tier attack. It is not weaker than the divine essence-fused light that I used previously. It is only slightly weaker than my 9 extinction divine sword. However, even such a terrifying attack was only able to reduce the energy of the formation by 80%. Did this not mean that the defensive power of the formation was enough to withstand the attack of a first-rate late-stage primordial spirit expert? Perhaps only a peak primordial spirit expert would be able to break through it? If there's an expert guarding the array, even a peak primordial spirit realm expert would find it extremely difficult to break through it in a short period of time. Ziyue could not help but exclaim in amazement. He was even more curious about the treasures in the palace. The stronger the defensive power of the array, the more important the items inside, and the more valuable the treasures that might be contained. Through the array, he guessed that even if he did not attack, the Wanyue true demon and the others would take a long time to break through the array. Moreover, they could not interrupt because once they did, the array would quickly recover. After all, even the strongest Wanyue true demon among the devil cultivators had not reached the level of a late primordial spirit realm expert. However, from this attack, I can see the strength of my perfect divine powers. The strongest of them, the one sword breaking all techniques, can reach the second tier of the late primordial spirit realm. The slightly weaker great elemental magnetic slash should be at the third tier of the late primordial spirit realm. Such an attack strength, compared to my other perfect divine powers, is equivalent to my actual combat strength reaching the late primordial spirit realm. However, if I add my Tao techniques, Ziyue was a little excited. His greatest strength was his Tao techniques. Therefore, a ray of great elemental magnetic divine light shot out. Rumble! A streak of divine light shot out at a speed that seemed slow, but was actually extremely fast and landed on the mansion protecting Grand Array. Rumble. There was a fake sound. The void shook violently. It was as if the space had been blasted apart, and a huge hole had been torn open. The defensive array also froze slightly when the attack landed. Then it collapsed and was completely destroyed. The array was broken. As the sky and earth cleared up, the palace before him became even clearer. The various scenes and environments within the palace also appeared clearly in his perception. However, Ziyue's thoughts did not turn to the palace immediately. Instead, he revealed a look of excitement. I broke the spatial barrier. My attack broke the spatial barrier. It is equivalent to the power of my great elemental magnetic divine light, reaching the peak of the primordial spirit realm. Although it should only be at the peak of the primordial spirit realm, the third tier of the primordial spirit realm. However, this is a qualitative change. Furthermore, this wasn't even my strongest attack. If the great elemental magnetic divine light can reach the peak of the primordial spirit realm, then if I use the 9 extinction divine sword, the attack power will definitely be stronger. It should be able to reach the middle tier of the peak of the primordial spirit realm. Ziyue silently compared. He knew that the stronger one was, the greater the difference in strength. There were differences in strength between the peak of the primordial spirit realm and the third tier. The difference in strength between the early and middle tier was greater than the difference between the early and middle tier of the golden elixir realm. In addition, the strength of my physical body and the strength of my soul have also increased by a lot. Although the strength of my soul cannot be further increased due to the perfection of my soul, the number of golden spiritual threads in my soul has increased by a lot. They have spread to almost every corner of my soul and have greatly increased the use of my soul techniques. Ziyue then began to investigate his own body, especially the golden spiritual threads. It could greatly increase the range of his senses and could also increase the power of his absent-mindedness. It could be said to have many wonderful uses, and he naturally valued it. The golden spiritual threads may have other mysteries. However, I will have to explore them myself. Ziyue had never heard of anyone who had golden spiritual threads in their soul. After all, it was rare for 1 in a billion people to be able to achieve perfection in one soul before reaching the peak of the golden elixir realm. Most of them had cultivated to the peak of the golden elixir realm, but their souls had not been upgraded to perfection. If one soul was not perfected, the risk of breaking through to the primordial spirit realm would naturally be greater. Following this, he moved his thoughts away from himself and looked at the palace. The Great Sun True Dragon Palace. When Bai Ziyue saw the name of the palace, a look of understanding flashed across his eyes. He guessed that this should be the cultivation palace of a powerful dragon called the Great Sun True Dragon. Judging from the strength of the protective formation, this Great Sun True Dragon was at least at the peak of the primordial spirit realm in ancient times. In terms of strength, a divine beast true dragon at the peak of the primordial spirit realm was definitely not weaker than the leaders of the various immortal forces today. At the very least, it was at the level of the Celestial Spirit Sect Master. The Celestial Spirit Sect Master was a veteran of the peak of the primordial spirit realm and was only 1 step away from the 10 Supreme Realm experts. Seeing this, Ziyue's heart was burning, and he immediately stepped in. A strong floral fragrance wafted to his nose almost as soon as he stepped in. Not only was the scenery in the palace pleasing, but it was also well preserved. Even the flowers and trees growing in the garden were at least 3rd grade spiritual materials. Many of them had broken through the limit of their grade and reached 4th grade or even 5th grade spiritual materials as time passed. Seeing this, Ziyue's eyes lit up, and he did not let go of these spiritual flowers and rare herbs. He immediately summoned the many cultivators of the North Underworld sect and allowed them to pluck them. This is just as true Lord Bai and the others appeared. They were shocked by the scene. However, by then, they had experienced a lot. They had plundered many good things with Bai Ziyue, so they were very familiar with such a scene. Soon, They divided the loot among themselves and began to plunder the entire palace wantonly. Ziyue had already investigated the various environments in the palace and knew that there was no danger in this place, let alone the presence of the black-scaled lizard demon. Therefore, he allowed them to plunder as he quickly got up and rushed to the centermost position of the palace. Soon, a huge palace appeared in front of him. The door of the palace was wide open, and there were even some traces of wine and fruit plates that had not been cleaned up. Obviously, the battle back then had been very rushed. Chapter 746. He did not stay in the hall for long, even though there were some extremely valuable items such as glass, golden lamps, and so on. However, he did not care much about them. Ziyue headed straight for the depths of the hall where the other party's cultivation palace and secret treasure chamber were located. Boom! Soon, the cultivation palace was blasted open by him. The moment he entered, Ziyue's pupils constricted. There was someone in this cultivation palace. He actually saw a person. It was a beautiful female cultivator who was dressed in a greenish-yellow immortal robe and had a delicate face. At this moment, she was sitting in the middle of the palace, and in front of her was a guqin that was nearly 2 meters long. Beside the guqin was a light sword. The commotion caused by Ziyue's entrance had obviously alarmed her, so she turned her head to look at Ziyue with an indifferent expression. Her eyes were clear and bright, like a clear spring, but also like a holy refinement that was filled with a pure aura. Ziyue's heart skipped a beat, but he soon relaxed. That was because he soon realized that the female cultivator was not a real person. Even though her various demeanor and temperament were extremely familiar to others, and even the changes in her expression were incomparably natural, she was still able to control herself. However, Ziyue did not sense any life aura from her. Since there was no life aura, she was naturally not alive. She was a puppet. It was a humanoid puppet of a very high grade. A puppet with such spirituality would at least be at the 5th grade or even higher. Therefore, Ziyue revealed a rare, solemn expression on his face. I've waited for too long. Finally, another cultivator has set foot here. Suddenly, a clear voice sounded. The female puppet seemed a little excited. Judging from your chi and blood fluctuations, you should be a human cultivator too, right? You're only at the peak of the Golden Core realm? As she said that, she seemed a little surprised. She was well aware of the power of the Great Sun True Dragon Palace's protective array. Without the offensive power of a peak essence soul realm cultivator, it would be extremely difficult to break it. However, the person who appeared in front of her was only at the peak of the Golden Core realm, which really shocked her. Ziyue was shocked. Waited for too long? Is he also a human cultivator? However, seeing that the other party had no intention of directly attacking, he was not in a hurry. My soul's predecessor was also a human cultivator. She's from the Jade Lake Immortal Sect and is the current Holy Maiden of the Jade Lake Immortal Sect. Her name is Fairy Bai Chun. The puppet maiden said. The saintess of the Jade Lake Immortal Sect? Ziyue was shocked. The Jade Lake Immortal Sect was a top immortal sect from 50,000 years ago. In its heyday, it was even more powerful than the Celestial Spirit Sect. Unfortunately, 50,000 years ago, it encountered a great calamity and was completely destroyed. He did not expect the female puppet to be the saintess of the Jade Lake Immortal Sect. At the same time, he also knew that she must have gone through a great tribulation before she became a puppet. That was why someone used a supreme technique to enslave her soul and put her into a puppet. A look of pity flashed across his eyes. After tens of thousands of years, his soul had always been in this puppet. Even if it was immortal, how painful would it be for an expert who pursued eternal life? You don't have to do that. Back then, after a great battle, I was definitely going to die. My primordial spirit was shattered and was about to disappear. It was the great Sun True Dragon of the dragon race who helped me and used this puppet to survive. He was indeed sincere to me. As she spoke, a complicated look flashed across Fairy Bai Chen's eyes before she continued, I just didn't expect that the calamity back then. Not only was the Jade Lake immortal sect destroyed, but even the true dragon race couldn't escape. The great Sun True Dragon, a top expert of the dragon race, also died and never came back. Ziyue nodded. He knew relatively little about the events of the ancient times. However, judging from the many signs, the calamity had indeed affected a large area. Many top forces with immortal methods had been destroyed. The true dragon race and the Jade Lake immortal sect were the same. Even the dragon palace was destroyed, so the great Sun True Dragon, the owner of this immortal mansion, naturally couldn't escape the fate of death. However, he didn't expect the great Sun True Dragon to be such an affectionate person. He was still infatuated with the saintess of the Jade Lake immortal sect, Fairy by Chun, and paid a great price to refine this top human-shaped puppet for his primordial spirit. Of course, from the appearance of this puppet, it was no wonder the great Sun True Dragon was so infatuated. Her beauty was comparable to that of the dream immortal king, Li Mengxian, whom he had met before. I wonder what happened to the dragon race back then that caused a top clan like the dragon race to be destroyed. Ziyue couldn't help but ask curiously. The extraterrestrial demons. They are also the greatest enemy of our star boundary since ancient times. Almost every tens of thousands of years, the star boundary will border with the demon realm where the extraterrestrial demons live. At that time, the star boundary will suffer the greatest calamity. In the last calamity, not only the true dragon race, but even the Phoenix race, a top clan, couldn't escape the calamity and was attacked into the Phoenix Palace. Of course, the reason why the dragon race was attacked into the Dragon Palace was because there was a traitor in the true dragon race back then. With the help of that traitor, the extraterrestrial demons were able to locate the Dragon Palace and attack it. As she spoke, a trace of fluctuation flashed in Fairy by Chen's eyes, but quickly returned to a calm state. She looked at Ziyue and said, "No matter what method you use to break the palace's array, I want you to help me. I want to ask you to do me a favor. In return, I can tell you everything I know about the Dragon Palace. From this information, it should be enough for you to gain a lot and make this trip worthwhile." Although the Dragon Palace was attacked by the extraterrestrial demons, as a top clan back then, it had a deep foundation and didn't let the extraterrestrial demons take advantage of it. There were many treasures that were still preserved. What kind of favor? Ziyue's heart skipped a beat. He already had this thought in mind, so he quickly asked. If there was someone who knew the Dragon Palace in detail to explain it to him, it would definitely allow him to gain the most. After all, compared to searching aimlessly, it would definitely be much more convenient to have someone guide him. Originally, although I had my original memories, I didn't have any emotional fluctuations of living beings. But after more than 50,000 years, my soul has gradually recovered because I have always instinctively cultivated the dragon race's secret technique. You should know that as a cultivator who pursues the transcendence of the essence spirit and lives for eternity, how painful is it to be trapped in a puppet? So, I hope you can help me break free. After leaving the Dragon Palace, destroy my puppet core. As she spoke, a trace of determination flashed in Fairy by Chen's eyes. Destroy your puppet core? Ziyue was shocked. That's right. Because of the refining array, I can't self-destruct. The great Sun True Dragon back then also wouldn't allow me to do so. So, I can only rely on external forces. As Fairy by Chun spoke, she looked at the cultivation palace reluctantly, then looked at the immortal zither and long sword on the table, and continued, "Finally, I am the saintess of the Jade Lake immortal sect after all, and now I should be the only successor of the Jade Lake immortal sect. So, I hope you can find a successor for the Jade Lake immortal sect so that the immortal techniques of the Jade Lake immortal sect can continue to be passed down. And I also hope you can help me find a suitable candidate for my immortal dust sword and soul-shocking immortal zither." Ziyue hesitated for a moment, then nodded and said, "Okay." To him, this was actually not a big deal. He didn't care too much about the inheritance of the Jade Lake immortal sect and the immortal dust sword, soul-shocking immortal zither. Even as a top ancient immortal sect, the inheritance must be extraordinary. but he walked the path of creating his own cultivation techniques. No matter how top a cultivation technique was, it was inferior to one created by oneself. At most, it could be used as a reference. He had no intention of cultivating it himself. Not to mention, if the other party gave the inheritance to him, he could naturally comprehend it himself. As for the immortal dust sword, it was a high-grade essence soul treasure, and it faintly contained a trace of spirituality. It was a rare immortal weapon that could freely grow with the passage of time. But Ziyue had his own life treasure, the Dark North Sword. Even if the Dark North Sword's grade was lower than the immortal dust sword, its future potential might not be lower than the immortal dust sword. After all, the Dark North Sword was a life treasure that he had constantly refined himself, and was naturally compatible with his use. Not to mention that the immortal dust sword was obviously very thin, and was suitable for female cultivators to use. Even if he had it in his hands, it wouldn't be suitable for him. The same was true for the soul-shocking immortal zither. Although its grade was extraordinary, it was a mid-grade essence soul treasure, and it was obviously an extremely rare treasure that could display a sound wave-type essence soul attack. However, his fighting style would not change because of an immortal zither. All right, Fairy Bai Chun glanced at Ziyue and could naturally see the sincerity in his expression. She was convinced and quickly gave the zither and immortal sword to him. Then, she waved her hand and summoned a jade box and a golden book from the jade bed. Opening the jade box, a jade-green crystal ball appeared in front of Ziyue. This is the inheritance crystal. It contains all the inheritance methods of the Jade Lake Immortal Sect that I have cultivated in, as well as many of my cultivation comprehensions. A piece of inheritance crystal can allow 10 people to receive the inheritance inside. Fellow Taoist, you can also comprehend it on your own, and perhaps you can also comprehend it. In addition, I hope that fellow Taoist can find an extraordinary female cultivator to be a disciple of the Jade Lake Immortal Sect. As for her future, it will all depend on her own development. I won't force fellow Taoist to revive the Jade Lake Immortal Sect. In addition, this golden book is actually a secret technique of the dragon race, the true dragon visualization technique. It is a cultivation method for the essence soul. It is also because of this true dragon visualization technique that I was able to recover my sanity and my soul was complete. Now, I will give it to fellow Taoist. With that, Fairy Bai Chun handed all these things to Ziyue. Thank you, Fairy. Ziyue took it carefully, and he also had some expectations in his heart. This true dragon visualization technique could restore Fairy Bai Chun, whose essence soul had been shattered and was almost doomed to die. One could imagine how powerful and precious it was. Moreover, as a peak clan, he was also looking forward to the inheritance of the true dragon, so he was naturally curious. After taking the golden book, the material was obviously unusual. It was actually made of the inner skin of the true dragon race. No wonder it could record true techniques and remain intact for so long. In terms of grade, the inner skin of the dragon race was much more precious than many inheritance steels. When Ziyue's divine sense touched the golden book, he quickly felt his consciousness enter an illusory space. In the space, there were many paintings. There were all kinds of paintings that belonged to the true form of the true dragon race. These paintings were extremely complicated, and the further one went, the more complicated it became. Even with the strength of Ziyue's soul, he could only see the first 3 paintings clearly. The 4th to 9th paintings were extremely blurry. This true dragon visualization technique is a unique essence soul cultivation method of the true dragon race. The 9 paintings correspond to the 9 levels of the essence soul realm. Cultivating to the 9th level will allow one to reach the peak of the essence soul realm. It is said that there is actually a 10th painting hidden in the 9 paintings. This 10th painting corresponds to the immortal Tao realm above the essence soul realm. Seeing Ziyue move away from the golden book, Fairy Bai Chun said, "There is a hidden 10th painting corresponding to the immortal Tao realm. What realm is this immortal Tao realm?" Ziyue was shocked and then asked curiously. The spirit-severing realm. The essence soul is only the foundation of the soul. After that, it is the spirit-severing realm, where the essence soul is split and can cultivate an avatar. This avatar also has more than 80% of the strength of the main body. Even if the avatar dies, the main body will not be affected too much. Of course, the avatar is only an instinctive method of a spirit-severing realm expert. A true spirit-severing realm expert has unfathomable abilities and is not something that we can guess. Fairy by Chun shook her head. The spirit-severing realm. A strange light flashed in Ziyue's eyes, and he seemed a little excited. Previously, although he had always known that there was a realm above the essence soul realm, he only knew that the outside world called such experts the immortal Tao realm. He had never known what realm the immortal Tao realm was. Now that he finally understood the division of this realm, he was a little excited and fascinated. What about above the spirit-severing realm? Immediately after, Ziyue could not help but ask again. There is naturally a realm above the spirit-severing realm. However, the strongest existence in the astral realm is the spirit-severing realm. Generally, experts who have reached this realm will not choose to stay in the astral realm for a long time. Most of them will break through the spatial barrier and travel the starry sky in search of a higher grade Tao. Therefore, even I have not heard of the realm above the spirit-severing realm. Moreover, it is too far away for you who are only at the peak of the Golden Core realm. There is a threshold between the Golden Core realm and the Essence Soul realm. It is even more difficult to break through the barrier between the Essence Soul realm and the spirit-severing realm. It is not a good thing for you to know too much. Fairy Bai Chan explained and could not help but warn. Of course I know. Ziyue did not explain, but he was actually satisfied to know that the realm above the Essence Soul realm was the spirit-severing realm. Chapter 747. Even though he was still very far away from that level, but he believed that he would definitely be able to reach that level in the future and witness the glory of those powerhouses. He was looking forward to it. In addition, every dragon clan has a treasure vault. Although most of the important treasures are carried by the Great Sun True Dragon, there are also many valuable treasures in the treasure vault. These must be one of your goals in entering the Dragon Palace. It's not difficult to find the location of the treasure vault, but if you want to open it, it will probably take some effort. Let me give you a hand. Fairy Bai Chun got up and pointed to the side of the cultivation palace. Rumble. A special wave of elemental energy was transmitted out. Immediately after, a huge treasure vault space appeared in front of Ziyue. This is a Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure. It's completely embedded in the array formation. Ziyue was stunned when he saw this. In the beginning, he really didn't notice the existence of this hidden space. Of course, this was also because he didn't deliberately explore it. But the way the treasure vault appeared in front of him still surprised him a little. Moreover, from this, it could be seen that the Great Sun True Dragon was infatuated with Fairy Bai Chun and told her almost all of his secrets. In fact, the entire Dragon Palace is a large grotto heaven, and it's the top 7th grade grotto heaven in the world. There's a 6th grade high rank immortal mountain inside, and it's extremely rich in spirit chi. It can allow the True Dragon clan to directly cultivate to the immortal Tao level. As for the Great Sun True Dragon's treasure vault space, although it's also a Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure, not only is the space small, but its grade is also relatively low, only 2nd grade. Most of them are used for storage. With that, Fairy Bai Chun led Ziyue into the treasure vault. Piles of golden stones, crystals, and spiritual stones were piled up like mountains. The lowest grade of spiritual stones was upper grade, and there were quite a number of supreme grade spiritual stones. There were also many beautiful, strange objects and rare treasures in the sea. They were all the best in the world. The dazzling lineup appeared in front of Bai Ziyue. Other than that, there were also talismans, spirit pills, and at least a large bookshelf. In addition, there were also some extraordinary long sabers, flying swords, and other treasures that could be seen everywhere. It was really too rich. However, no matter what kind of treasure it was difficult for it to escape the traces of time. As a result, there were many treasures that gradually dimmed and lost their luster as time passed. However, what attracted Baizu's attention the most were the animal skin books, bone jade slips, stone tablets of inheritance, and other items placed on the bookshelves. Although most of them recorded relatively basic things, it was still not enough. However, for it to be collected by a true dragon at the pinnacle of the Essence Soul realm, there was naturally no lack of exquisite techniques. Many of them had been passed down since ancient times, and most of them had been lost. Yet at this moment, it had reappeared. Seeing this, Ziyue was also excited. He didn't pick it all and threw all of them into his northern underworld cave. He planned to have a good look at them when he had time to increase his knowledge and foundation. Seeing this, Fairy Bai Chun couldn't help but reveal a strange expression. She said, "I didn't expect Taoist Northern Underworld to have a Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure himself. And from the looks of it, it's at least a 4th grade Dharma treasure. It's an unexpected gain, so it's nothing much." Ziyue waved his hand and said, "It was really too difficult for a Grotto Heaven Dharma treasure to grow. It required a lot of resources. Ziyue could upgrade this Grotto Heaven to a 4th grade because he had plundered too many treasures along the way, and the Immortal Mountain in the Grotto Heaven was upgraded to a 4th grade Dharma treasure. However, if he wanted to continue upgrading it, he would need to spend 10 times more resources than before. In fact, it would be very good if he could plunder the entire Dragon Palace. However, a 7th grade Grotto Heaven was too high a grade, and the core of the array formation had reached an incomparably shocking level. He estimated that before he could get close, he would be blasted to pieces by the terrifying power of the array formation. Perhaps only an immortal Tao powerhouse, which was an expert at the spirit severing stage, could collect it. As of now, he was still far from it. After a round of plundering, Ziyue stored all the treasures worth at least 10 million superior grade spirit stones into the northern underworld Grotto Heaven, and then walked out of the treasure space with Fairy Bai Chun. Outside, many disciples of the northern underworld sect had already gathered the treasures in the entire palace like locusts. Then, following Ziyue's order, they quickly rushed into the northern underworld Grotto Heaven. "I didn't expect you to be the master of a sect. No wonder you have an extraordinary aura," Fairy Bai Chun couldn't help but say in surprise. Fairy Bai Chun couldn't help but ask in surprise as she walked out of the Great Sun True Dragon Palace with Ziyue. "It's just a backup plan. I left some inheritance behind, but the real management of the sect is actually done by others," Ziyue said indifferently. "Fellow Taoist, your actions are indeed helpful to your cultivation. As the master of a sect, the fate of many disciples in the sect is naturally intertwined. The increase in providence for immortal cultivators is actually great. The stronger the strength of the sect and the deeper the foundation, the more terrifying the increase in providence. Whether it was traveling, encountering treasures, or breaking through realms, it was much easier than ordinary itinerant cultivators. This was also the reason why many experts were willing to join some of the top immortal sects. They hoped to have an intersection with the providence of the top immortal sects, which would be helpful to their cultivation path. As for sect masters, especially the founder of a sect like you, the increase in providence is even greater. I think you should have some experience of the benefits, right?" Fairy Bai Chun nodded and said with approval. Ziyue was stunned, and then a thoughtful look appeared on his face. He knew that Fairy Bai Chun was the saintess of the Jade Lake Immortal Sect, a top immortal sect tens of thousands of years ago, and had extraordinary knowledge. Since she said so, there must be some truth to it. Although he didn't feel it clearly, he did feel that his chances of encountering treasures were much smoother than before. For example, the previous trip to the Stellar Origin Divine Mountain and this trip to the Dragon Palace. If he didn't have some providence, how could he coincidentally meet by chance? Participate in it? By the way, I wonder if there are really numinous treasures in this Dragon Palace? Ziyue asked as he walked with Fairy Bai Chun. Of course there are. The True Dragon Clan is a top clan. They are powerful and have countless treasures. Although numinous treasures are precious, the true dragon clan doesn't lack them. Among them, the true dragon crown, the dragon god pearl, and the true dragon armor are all numinous treasures. In addition, there is the 9-dragon golden pagoda and the memory inheritance palace, which are all numinous treasures. However, the battle tens of thousands of years ago was too tragic. I don't know what the outcome was. So whether these numinous treasures are still in the Dragon Palace remains to be seen. At least, the 3 Dragon Clan treasures are very likely to have disappeared with the Dragon Emperor. On the other hand, the Memory Inheritance Palace and the 9-Dragon Golden Pagoda are very likely to still be in the Dragon Palace. Fairy Baichun said. The 3 Dragon Clan treasures are the True Dragon Crown, the Dragon God Pearl, and the True Dragon Armor. There's also the 9-Dragon Golden Pagoda and the Memory Inheritance Palace. These are the 5 numinous treasures. Ziwei couldn't help but widen his eyes in shock. As far as he knew, among the top 10 immortal cultivation method forces in the astral realm, there were only 5 or 6 forces that had numinous treasures. At least on the surface, that was the case. However, he heard from Fairy Baichun that the Dragon Clan had at least 5 numinous treasures at their peak. This was a spiritual treasure, a treasure that possessed unfathomable power. However, he immediately asked with some doubt, the Dragon Emperor disappeared, and the 3 Dragon Clan treasures were also lost. Before the great battle tens of thousands of years ago, the Dragon Emperor of the Dragon Clan had already gone out. Until the end of the catastrophe, I didn't feel the Dragon Emperor's aura returning. Although I don't know if the Dragon Emperor had encountered an accident, the Dragon Clan was indeed a top clan at that time. In addition to the Dragon Emperor, there was actually a powerhouse at the Immortal Dao level guarding this place. That was why the Dragon Palace was intact and didn't completely fall into the hands of the extraterritorial demons. Fairy Baichun explained. As for the Memory Inheritance Palace and the 9-Dragon Golden Pagoda, as far as I know, they have always been placed in the Dragon Palace, which is the largest palace in the entire Dragon Palace. I have only seen it once under the leadership of the Great Sun True Dragon. In the Memory Inheritance Palace, there are the memories of the True Dragon Clan and many vassal powerhouses of the Dragon Clan. Those who can leave behind their inheritances in the Memory Inheritance Palace are at least late-stage Essence Soul Realm powerhouses. There are even inheritances left behind by past Immortal Dao powerhouses of the Dragon Clan. As far as I know, almost every generation of the True Dragon Clan has powerhouses above the Spirit Severing Realm. Even if many of them didn't leave behind their inheritances, there are at least 10 Immortal Dao inheritances among them. It is the greatest wealth and treasure of the True Dragon Clan, and its value is above the 3 Dragon Clan treasures. The 9-Dragon Golden Pagoda is a treasure used by the True Dragon Clan to test the strength and potential of their clansmen. Although it is only used to test potential, it has a great effect on the improvement of the combat power of the Dragon Clan powerhouses. Moreover, it is said that there are cultivation guides in it that are extremely useful for the improvement of a cultivator's realm. If one can pass the test of the 9-Dragon Golden Pagoda and ascend to the top of the 9-Dragon Golden Pagoda, it is said that one will almost certainly break through the peak of the Essence Soul Realm and become an Immortal Dao powerhouse. This 9-Dragon Golden Pagoda is said to have been accidentally obtained by the ancient True Dragon Clan in the depths of the starry sky. It has a great origin. With that said, Fairy Baichun pointed to the tallest palace in the distance. Memory Inheritance Palace, 9-Dragon Golden Pagoda. Bai Ziwei came to a realization and was a little shocked. Even though he had tried his best to overestimate the strength of the True Dragon Clan, he still felt that it was a little difficult to guess. The inheritances of more than 10 Spirit Severing Realm powerhouses. There is also a numinous treasure that could allow the True Dragon of the clan to reach the Spirit Severing Realm. If he could obtain these 2 numinous treasures, he immediately felt a little excited. It would really be of great help to his growth in strength and future cultivation. Be careful! Suddenly, Fairy Baichun exclaimed. However, as they were moving forward, several black-scaled lizard demons suddenly rushed out of the palace with an open door in the distance. These black-scaled lizard demons were huge in size and had ferocious eyes. Every single one of them was comparable to an expert in the middle stage of the Golden Core realm. They charged over together with an imposing aura and extremely fast speed. It was as though they would swing their claws and tear Baizue apart in the next moment. "It's fine." Ziyue waved his hand and waved. Rumble. A huge palm print fell and almost instantly crushed all the black-scaled lizard demons, turning them into meat paste. The power of this palm. Fairy Bai Chen's eyes widened with a trace of disbelief. It has surpassed the level of the Golden Core realm and is at least comparable to the full-strength attack of an early-stage Essence Soul Realm powerhouse. Could it be that the combat power of the cultivators today is so terrifying? A peak Golden Core realm cultivator has the combat power of an early-stage Essence Soul Realm cultivator? Ziyue did not explain anything. With his current strength, a casual attack contained terrifying power. Even if he did not use any great divine powers or Dao techniques, it was far beyond the limit of what a Golden Core realm cultivator could achieve. These black-scaled lizard demons were almost no threat to him and could only be used as his sole energy resource. In the next period of time, Ziyue entered a few true dragon palaces that might contain precious treasures through Fairy Bai Chen's explanation. Although most of them had been explored by other powerhouses and a few were completely destroyed by the impact of the array, it still increased his harvest by a lot. Among them, the one that caught his attention the most was a superior grade Essence Soul Realm Battle Bow. This battle bow was called the Dragon God Bow and was one of the rare weapons that could be used directly without any refinement. When shot with full strength, it was comparable to the full-strength attack of a late-stage Essence Soul Realm powerhouse. Its attack power was extremely strong, and its attack range was extremely long. According to Fairy Bai Chen, this battle bow was also very famous in ancient times. The only problem was that the power required to draw this battle bow was too strong, and it consumed a terrifying amount of energy. Even with Ziyue's physical strength, he could only barely draw it. He could only draw it 3 times. After 3 times, his physical strength would be exhausted and he would feel exhausted. As for the consumption of his core essence, it was not a big deal to him. After all, he had a continuous supply of soul energy. Of course, during this period, he also encountered several waves of black-scaled lizard demons. The strongest of them was comparable to an early-stage Essence Soul Realm powerhouse and led dozens of black-scaled lizard demons at the Golden Core realm. It was very terrifying. However, they were easily killed by Ziyue. Whether it was the dozens of black-scaled lizard demons at the Golden Core realm or the black-scaled lizard demon king comparable to an early-stage Essence Soul Realm powerhouse, they were all quickly killed by him with a casual palm strike. None of them could withstand the power of his palm strike. Fairy Bai Chen was a little dumbfounded by such strength and terrifying attack power. After a while, she said faintly, "Could it be that the strength of our human cultivators is already this strong? Is it normal to kill immortals against the odds?" One had to know that even when she was at her peak, she would find it difficult to face such a powerful black-scaled lizard demon. Chapter 748. Back then, she was at the early stage of the primordial soul realm. Whether it was her potential or combat strength, she was superior to her peers. However, the feeling that Baizue gave her was as if he was lifting something heavy as if it were light, and he was relaxed and natural. The attacks unleashed with each and every one of his movements were incomparably terrifying. I don't know about the others, but to me, this level of attack is nothing. Ziyue smiled faintly and said. Fairy Bai Chen was silent. She had already understood that it wasn't that most of the cultivators nowadays could go against the odds and fight immortals. With the strength of a peak Golden Core, they could unleash strength that far exceeded that of an ordinary Essence Soul Realm expert. It was Baizue himself that was extraordinary. He was the only one who was so powerful that he could go against the odds and fight immortals. The other cultivators were definitely far inferior to him. Thinking about it, It was normal. The barrier between realms was natural. It was normal for one or two outstanding cultivators to go against the odds and fight immortals. But if everyone could do it, it was a little beyond imagination. Soon, she saw the scene of other cultivators fighting and was even more certain of this point. In a huge, open space, for human cultivators were fighting fiercely with 4 sea demons. These human cultivators and sea demons were all at the Golden Core realm, so their realms were similar. Even though the sea demons were often more powerful because of their large size, one of the cultivators was the current city lord of the giant whale immortal city, Huafengyu. Like Yue, Huafengyu was at the peak of the Golden Core realm and was only slightly weaker than an emperor. Against a group of sea demons with extraordinary bloodlines, he had the upper hand. However, in Fairy by Chen's eyes, Huafengyu's combat strength was much weaker than Ziyue's, even though they were both at the peak of the Golden Core realm. Naturally, she was even more certain of Ziyue's unusual judgment. At this moment, Bai Ziyue and Fairy by Chen did not deliberately hide themselves, so their arrival was immediately noticed by the two sides. They immediately stopped at the same time as pairs of eyes constantly studied them. They were extremely vigilant. They seemed to have noticed that Fairy by Chen was a human-shaped puppet, so most of their gazes fell on Ziyue. "You guys continue, I'm just passing by." Ziyue waved his hand and said indifferently. As he spoke, his footsteps did not stop. He circled around the two sides of the battle, intending to head to the other side. "Fellow Taoist, those who are not of our race are bound to have different intentions. Do you know how many massacres the Sea Demon clan has caused to our human cultivators over the years? Now that there's an opportunity, how can I let it go so easily?" Just as Ziyue was about to leave, a cultivator with a mustache said excitedly, "So what?" Ziyue said indifferently. He had never thought of meddling in the water and helping others. Not to mention, in this place, no matter how great the grudge between them was, they would put it aside for the time being. The reason for the conflict was most likely because of the treasure. He might be able to deceive some small cultivators with some righteous words, but he wouldn't be able to convince him. It had to be known that the number and strength of the sea demons he had killed was definitely more than this cultivator. That cultivator was instantly speechless. His face turned green and red. On the other side, the sea demons heaved a sigh of relief. Although they were not weak, they felt that it was a little difficult to face the previous 4 Golden Core cultivators. If there was another one, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. As for Huafengyu, the moment he saw Ziyue, his expression changed slightly. His heart skipped a beat as he guessed his identity. Taoist North Ming. The Taoist North Ming who could kill immortals and kill essence souls. When he thought of how terrifying this expert was, he only hoped that Ziyue could leave as soon as possible. He did not dare to open his mouth and invite him to battle. Whoosh! Right at this moment, a huge figure was rapidly approaching from afar. The direction in which the figure appeared was right in front of Ziyue. It's Demon King Songhao, the Bone Kuan clan's Demon King Songhao. I just sent out a distress signal. I didn't expect Demon King Songhao to be nearby. He happened to discover me and rushed over to help. Following the appearance of this huge figure, an extremely agitated voice immediately sounded from the direction of the sea demons. The Dragon Palace occupied an extremely large area and was enveloped by a huge formation. It greatly suppressed the divine senses of the cultivators. Naturally, there is a huge limit to the range of a distress signal. It was almost impossible to receive a distress signal from a cultivator of the same clan beyond a range of 5 kilometers. "Oh no, it's Demon King Songhao. What do we do?" "It's over." Demon King Songhao is an early-stage essence soul realm demon of the Bone Kuan clan. He's extremely powerful and is no weaker than a mid-stage essence soul realm cultivator. On the other hand, the cultivators were completely flustered. An early-stage essence soul realm sea demon, and one with a powerful bloodline talent and combat strength, Demon King Songhao of the Bone Kuan clan, immediately caused them to fall into a desperate situation. Run. Then almost instantly, they scattered and rushed in all directions, trying to escape. Trying to escape? Do you think you can escape? However, the other sea demons naturally would not let them escape. They were already prepared and quickly rushed forward, tangling with Hua Fengyu and the others. Even though the few cultivators tried their best to escape, they were intercepted by the group of sea demons of the same level as them, and could not completely escape. Suddenly, an aura of despair began to spread in the hearts of Hua, Fengyu, and the others. Demon King Song Hao. Bai Ziyue frowned slightly as he looked at the incoming Demon King Vast Sea. At the side, Fairy Bai Chen's face revealed a rare trace of seriousness. She was now a puppet and had long been prepared to die. Therefore, she did not pay much attention to Demon King Song Hao's arrival. However, she could clearly feel that this sea demon was very powerful. This was a powerful demon whose bloodline talent was extremely powerful and was only slightly weaker than the True Dragon clan. Even if they were at the same level, they would often be stronger than immortal spell cultivators. Although this sea demon king was only at the early stage of the primordial soul realm, his aura was vigorous and powerful, and there was even a faint sense of majesty. Obviously, he was already at the peak of this level and could break through to the middle stage of the primordial soul realm at any time. Such a sea demon king's battle strength was already not weaker than some veteran middle stage primordial soul realm cultivators. She had previously seen Ziyue's attack, and had even seen him kill a black-scaled lizard demon comparable to the early stage of the primordial soul realm with her own eyes. However, that black-scaled lizard demon obviously only had its instincts and did not have much intelligence. It was already weaker than a true primordial soul realm cultivator and was far inferior to this sea demon king, not to mention the difference in their levels. She suddenly felt a little worried. Even though she was already indifferent to her own life and death, she naturally hoped that the humans could win and obtain the greatest benefits in the Dragon Palace. But Taoist North Ming's strength, her mind raced. Almost instantly, she saw the Bone Kuan clan's demon king approach her, revealing a ferocious expression. Die! A low roar was heard. Demon King Song Hao struck out with his palm. To a demon king of his level, a peak golden core realm cultivator was insignificant and could be killed in an instant. Even if it was a golden core king-ranked expert, it would not be of much use to it. Demon King Song Hao was not an ordinary human cultivator who had just entered the primordial soul realm. Even a casual strike from him could reach the primordial soul realm and kill a golden core regal realm cultivator. I didn't want to kill you, but I didn't expect you to dare to provoke me. Ziyue looked up slightly and revealed a faint smile. Then he also raised his hand and struck out with his palm. This palm did not contain any great Ubijna or Ubijna, but it was equally terrifying and had also reached the early stage of the primordial soul realm. It collided with Demon King Song Hao's palm print. Boom! The void exploded, causing the space to distort. Even with the protection of the basic array formation, the jade ground was still blasted up layer by layer. Then, Demon King Song Hao's relaxed expression suddenly changed. He paused in his charge and then flew backward rapidly. In this attack, it was actually at a disadvantage in terms of power. It was sent flying by Ziyue's palm strike. What? Demon King Song Hao's expression changed and revealed a look of shock. How could it be? How could a golden core realm cultivator execute such a terrifying palm strike? Interesting. You're only at the peak of the golden core realm, but you're able to execute an attack that is comparable to the full power of an early stage primordial soul realm cultivator. Moreover, the level of strength of this attack is already more powerful than some of the early stage primordial soul realm cultivators of the human race. If I'm not wrong, you should be a super genius of the human race. You must be from an extraordinary background. You should be one of the saints of the top 10 super forces. I didn't expect to meet you in the Dragon Palace. If we were in the outside world, I would have some scruples. I'm afraid that if I touch you, some human cultivators will come to the Bone Kuan clan's territory and cause trouble. However, this is the Dragon Palace, and the entire space is isolated outside. If you die, no one will be able to trace it back to me. As Demon King Songhao spoke, he laughed loudly and continued, I, Songhao, have killed and devoured countless human cultivators in my life. However, I've never tasted a genius cultivator like you. This time I'm lucky. As he spoke, Demon King Songhao attacked again, and a golden sword rapidly shot out from his body. At the same time, he removed the transformation technique and revealed his original appearance. Although his tone was calm, he still acknowledged Ziyue's strength. Being cautious by nature, he naturally wouldn't underestimate his opponent. Therefore, he used all his strength from the start. You want to kill me? I like to see if you have the ability to do so. Ziyue appeared to be even calmer than Demon King Songhao. With a thought, a flying sword shot out from his body. Sizzle. Then, with a slight tremble, it evolved into a sword that could break all techniques. In a flash, it met the golden sword. With just a slight touch, a terrifying power was transmitted. The golden sword trembled and immediately flew out. Immediately after, the flying sword's remaining strength didn't diminish. In a flash, it ruthlessly slashed at Demon King Songhao's head. Bang! The flying sword collided with Demon King Songhao's skull and produced a loud clang. It didn't manage to do anything. Demon King Songhao was indeed a demon king of the Bone Kuan race. After revealing his original form, his pitch-black bones were extremely tough and durable. Even though Ziyue's flying sword knocked the golden sword away, its strength was still reduced to 30% of its peak. However, such an attack was comparable to a first-tier early-stage Essence Soul Realm attack. However, this attack, which was comparable to a first-tier early-stage Essence Soul Realm attack, was still unable to shatter Demon King Songhao's defense. One could only imagine how powerful the attack was. Roar! What a powerful attack! Demon King Songhao's expression changed. Although it managed to block by Ziyue's attack, it was extremely shocked. The tremendous force transmitted from the sword caused its skull to crack, its vision to turn pitch black, and its head to become dizzy. If another attack were to land, his external bone defense would be unable to withstand it and would definitely be shattered. After all, the strength of his external bone defense was linked to his immortal technique realm. The stronger his immortal technique realm was, the stronger the attack he could withstand. For example, if it was at the pinnacle of the early stage of the primordial soul realm, its external bone defense would be equivalent to the pinnacle of the early stage of the primordial soul realm. Only an attack of the same level would be able to shatter its external bone defense. However, the intensity of Ziyue's attack had already reached this point. Furthermore, his golden sword had blocked most of the attack. If his opponent's next attack were to land without holding back, he wouldn't be able to withstand it all. Thinking of this, Demon King Songhao's heart trembled, and he immediately felt the urge to retreat. He was able to grow to his current level of strength, not only because of his talent, but also because he was cautious. Once he encountered danger, he would escape without hesitation. This was also one of the reasons why he was able to survive countless battles. When he sensed that Ziyue was not ordinary, and that he might even be much stronger than himself, he became extremely cautious and immediately wanted to retreat. Then, he did so without hesitation. The moment he was in an attacking posture, he turned around and quickly fled into the distance. He's escaping? Ziyue was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Demon King Songhao to be so decisive. After sensing that Ziyue was not ordinary, he fled without hesitation. However, although Demon King Songhao's reaction was decisive and his speed was not slow, with Ziyue's speed and methods, he naturally wouldn't let him escape so easily. Since Demon King Songhao had said that he wanted to kill him, Ziyue couldn't possibly let him go. Thus, an almost solid human figure suddenly appeared on Ziyue's body. The figure raised its eyes slightly and let out a soft cry. Immediately, a misty beam of light shot out, covering a great distance in the blink of an eye and landing on Demon King Vasi's body. Then he stretched out his hand, and a ball of spiritual light flashed and disappeared, landing on Demon King Tsanghao's body. It was Ziyue's innate divine ability, dazed, and the perfect Great Forbidden Spirit technique. Chapter 749. An innate ability coupled with a perfect Great Divine ability. Even though the strength of Ziyue's soul was far inferior to Tsanghao's, who was already at the peak of the early primordial soul realm and had undergone the baptism of the lightning tribulation, the golden spiritual thread in Ziyue's soul possessed unfathomable power. It could more than double the power of his innate ability. Now that he had charged out, the attack of his innate ability was extremely powerful. It pierced straight into the depths of Tsanghao's primordial soul like a sharp thorn. Tsanghao's body immediately trembled. His primordial soul was pierced with pain, and his thoughts were affected. He became somewhat disoriented. Immediately after, the light of the Great Spirit sealing technique descended. It was like a mysterious giant net supported by the heavens and earth. It rapidly enveloped Tsanghao, separating his body from his primordial soul and sealing almost every part of his body. At this moment, he was like a newborn baby. He was helpless, powerless, and hesitant. Tsanghao hurriedly and fiercely resisted as his emotions surged. Very quickly, he once again felt his primordial soul and body. Then he instinctively controlled the power of his primordial soul and body to resist wantonly. Z. Finally, he broke free from the layers of seals. He was immediately overjoyed. Just as he was about to continue using his strength to escape, he felt his vision darken. He was drawn into a special and completely dark space. It was by Ziyue's perfect great ability, the Heaven and Earth Sleeve technique. Boom, boom, boom. After performing the universe in the sleeve, Ziyue made another move. Beams of sword light soared into the sky and gathered to form a huge, transparent sword body. The sword body was extremely stable. However, it seemed to be hollow in the middle. After reaching a certain height, it rapidly rolled back and dropped down. Rumble. He quickly landed on the ground and sealed Tsanghao, Demon King, who was within the universe, in the sleeve. It was the perfect Great Divine ability, 5 Emperor Heaven Sealing Sword. In a short period of time, Ziyue had attacked consecutively. He used a total of 4 techniques, either trapping or sealing, to seal Tsanghao within. How can this be? Demon King Tsanghao turned pale with fright as he panicked to the extreme. He hurriedly used all kinds of attacking methods, desperately falling into the space of the universe in the sleeve, wanting to rush out from it. At this moment, Ziyue seemed to be even more relaxed. With a flip of his hand, a war bow immediately landed in his hand. This was the Dragon God Bow, an upper-grade primordial spirit treasure that he had found in the ruins of the Dragon Clan. This Dragon God Bow was one of the few magic treasures that could be used directly without the need for a cultivator to refine it. Although using this bow required a great deal of strength and consumed a great deal of Jindan essence, Ziyue still took it out. He gripped the bowstring tightly and pulled hard. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of a bowstring being pulled back could be heard. Immediately after, the Jindan essence in his body gushed out like a fountain and rushed into the bowstring. Chi, an arrow-shaped phantom that looked like a real dragon, gradually solidified, as if it was real. Bang! Ziyue loosened his fingers. Roar! The dragon-shaped arrow seemed to vaguely emit a huge roar of a real dragon as it shot out. Break for me! Demon King Tsanghao panicked to the extreme. He used the soul-burning technique and desperately poured his strength into the golden sword. He madly attacked the inner wall of the universe in the sleeve and finally broke it. Before he could rejoice, he saw a sword wall appear in front of him. His chest tightened, and he felt extremely aggrieved. However, he had no choice but to attack again. He desperately tried to break the sword wall. However, at this moment, he heard a sound that sounded like a real dragon's roar. The sound contained a strong sense of intimidation, causing his consciousness to be stunned. Immediately afterward, it felt a sharp pain in its head. Its skull, which had an incomparably strong defense, cracked. It felt as if an extremely violent attack had drilled into its body through its skull, and a terrifying power began to wreak havoc in its body. No, he only had time to let out a desperate roar before his consciousness and primordial spirit were completely torn apart and annihilated. He was dead, although he was extremely strong, and the defensive power of his external bone was comparable to that of an inferior primordial spirit treasure. The dragon god bow in Ziyue's hand was even stronger. It was an upper-grade primordial spirit treasure. Every shot was comparable to the full force attack of a late-stage primordial spirit realm expert. Such an attack could easily tear him apart and kill him. This dragon god bow can be considered a rare treasure. It's a pity that the power it unleashes is ultimately inferior to my 2 Dao techniques. The 9 Extinction Divine Sword and the Metamagnet Divine Light are not as useful to me as I thought. However, this Dragon God Bow is an upper-grade primordial spirit treasure after all. It can release arrows very quickly. If I have enough strength and Jinan essence, I can even shoot arrows continuously without any pause. Ziyue calmly put away the bow and arrows. He quickly came to a conclusion. The attack power was strong and the speed was fast. Perhaps it would not be of much use when facing a strong enemy, but it was enough for regular use. It's dead? Fairy Bai Chen's eyes widened and her jaw dropped. This was a sea demon at the peak of the early-stage primordial spirit realm. His bloodline talent was extremely strong, and his combat power was comparable to a mid-stage primordial spirit realm expert. However, such a powerful and terrifying existence was unable to retaliate against by Ziyue's endless attacks. In a short span of a few breaths, he was killed. When she thought about how Ziyue's immortal spell realm was only at the peak of the golden core realm, even though she had already guessed that Ziyue's strength was extraordinary, she was still extremely shocked. Although it was rare to go against the odds to kill an immortal, there would always be 1 or 2 super geniuses in the various immortal spell forces in the astral boundary. However, to kill an enemy who was 2 levels higher, she had never even heard of such a shocking existence, let alone seen it. Demon King Songhao is dead. He's dead? He was killed by that human cultivator, the human cultivator at the peak of the golden core realm. The many sea demons who were fighting Hua, Fengyu, and the others to prevent them from escaping were naturally paying attention to the battlefield. The moment they saw this scene, they were stunned. Then, they became extremely panicked. They could not believe their eyes. How powerful was Demon King Songhao? Among the sea demons' primordial spirit realm experts, he was ranked in the top 5. His combat power was not weaker than Wan Zhongyun of Zhongyun Island, who had reached the mid-stage primordial spirit realm in the Great Whale Immortal City. However, such a powerful existence had died in the hands of a human cultivator whose immortal spell realm was only at the peak of the Golden Core realm. Most importantly, they could clearly sense the difference between Monster King Songhao and this human cultivator after observing the entire process. The human cultivator did not seem to have expended any effort and killed Demon King Songhao very easily. How is this possible? Who is this human cultivator? Their thoughts were in a mess, and they were extremely terrified. On the other hand, Hua Fengyu and the others were extremely surprised. They had already lost all hope. A Demon King expert had appeared, and they were being held back. It was almost certain that they would die. In the end, who would have thought that such a powerful Demon King would die just like that? He had died in the hands of an unfamiliar cultivator. Even Hua Fengyu was shocked. He had already guessed Ziyue's identity. He was the legendary Taoist, North Ming, who was constantly being hunted down by the 2 mid-stage primordial spirit realm experts of the 9-star Dao Palace and the Heavenly Spirit Sect. He also knew that Taoist North Ming was extremely powerful and extraordinary. It was said that he had the battle record of killing an immortal spell realm expert. However, even though he had tried his best to overestimate his opponent's strength, he still did not expect his actual combat power to be so terrifying. A peak Golden Core Realm expert who had killed a mid-stage Primordial Spirit Realm expert. This kind of battle prowess made him feel extremely terrified, and a sense of worship and reverence arose in his heart. Let's go. Ziyue took Demon King Song Hao's corpse and ignored Hua Fengyu and the others who were still fighting fiercely behind him. He called out to Fairy Bai Chun and continued into the depths of the Dragon Palace. What a strong sense of suppression, and what a thick, murderous aura. In this place, the range of my divine sense has been suppressed to a radius of 30 meters. Even if I use the Golden Soul Silk, it can only increase the range of my divine sense to about 500 feet. Moreover, the deeper I go, the stronger the suppression. In a long corridor, Ziyue could not help but reveal a solemn expression. This is already close to the Dragon Palace. After passing through this corridor, we will reach the Dragon Palace. If I'm not wrong, this suppressive force should be the true dragon suppression. I just did not expect that after tens of thousands of years, there would still be such a strong, true dragon suppression. As for the murderous aura, it should have been left behind by the extraterrestrial demons during the Great Battle. I just don't know what's going on in the Dragon Palace. Fairy Bai Chun also sensed the two powerful auras and said with a solemn expression. Ziyue nodded silently. He could vaguely feel that the dragon suppression and the murderous aura were influencing each other and fighting. It was as if they had been fighting for tens of thousands of years before they were released and affected the entire Dragon Palace. The corridor was not long, and there would naturally be an end to it. When Ziyue walked out of the end of the corridor, he saw a huge and magnificent palace in front of him at a glance. The entire hall was shrouded in a misty array formation. However, the great battle back then had caused unimaginable damage to the palace. Not only was the power of the array far less than when it was at its peak, but the entire side hall outside the palace had collapsed, immediately forming a huge gap in the array formation. Through this gap, one could vaguely see the interior of the palace and a behemoth-like body. That body was like a huge mountain that had existed since ancient times, but it was densely covered with scales. Just one of them was comparable to the size of a millstone and emitted a dim light. From Ziyue's point of view, he could only see the tip of the iceberg inside the palace, but this corner was completely occupied by this body. One could imagine how huge it would be when it was complete. This is the body of a true dragon, and it might even be the dragon clan Immortal Tao at the spirit-severing stage. Ziyue could not help but be shocked, and his breathing began to quicken. The body of a spirit-severing stage Immortal Tao expert, and the body of a true dragon divine beast. Its value was too high, and definitely not inferior to a spirit treasure. This was because even if it was a corpse of such a level, it would definitely carry the spirit of a spirit-severing stage expert. If one could comprehend this spirit, it would definitely be a great boost to one's strength and realm. Not to mention the dragon blood, dragon scales, dragon bones, dragon tendons. Which one of them was not endlessly valuable? However, Ziyue soon noticed that there were several groups of cultivators gathered outside the collapsed side hall. There were several sea demon kings among them, as well as several primordial spirit realm experts from the Great Whale Immortal City. Of course, there were also experts among the demon cultivators, and there were more than 100 experts scattered around. However, there were more than a dozen primordial spirit realm experts. But at this time, whether it was the demon cultivators, human cultivators, or the sea demons, all of the experts seemed to be at peace with each other. There was no direct conflict, and all of them looked solemnly in the direction of the collapsed side hall. Ziyue's appearance naturally attracted the attention of many cultivators, but after realizing that he was only at the peak of the Golden Core stage, most of them did not pay too much attention to him. Only Kong Mo, who was among the demon cultivators, sized up Ziyue a few more times and seemed to recognize him. However, it was obvious that the treasure of the Dragon Palace was more important to him at this time, and so he did not act rashly. No wonder they did not act rashly. There are many black-scaled lizard demons in this side hall, and there are at least 1,000 of them. And there are obviously many primordial spirit realm black-scaled lizard demon kings among them. It will not be so easy for them to smoothly enter the Dragon Palace from the side hall. Zuf found it strange, and could not help but move closer. His pupils shrank as he finally made a discovery. There were too many black-scaled lizard demons in the side hall. He saw more than 1,000 of them, and there were as many as 7 or 8 black-scaled lizard demon kings that were comparable to the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. As for whether there were more hiding among them, they had no idea in this environment where their divine senses were suppressed. Although there were many experts at the scene, and there were about 12 or 13 primordial spirit realm existences, most of them were at the early stage of the primordial spirit realm. The top demon king Tsanggu, demon king Ao Su of the Black Flood Dragon clan, the demon cultivator's wraith demon supremacy, Fu Yunfan, Mo Fan, Wang Shueji, and the others from the giant whale immortal city were not present. Without these experts, the others naturally did not dare to act rashly. However, the reason why the two sides did not directly engage in a fierce battle is obviously because although the side hall has collapsed, it is still suppressed by the Great Formation. If the Great Formation had disappeared and the collapsed side hall had not been enveloped, the battle would have begun long ago. The number of black-scaled lizard demons scattered all over the Dragon Palace would have increased by a lot. Ziyue quickly made a discovery and could not help but speculate. The Great Formation that enveloped the entire Dragon Palace was too strong. It was far stronger than the one in the Great Sun True Dragon Palace that he had encountered before. Even if this side hall had collapsed, it was still extremely strong under the cover of the Great Formation and blocked the thousands of black-scaled lizard demons inside. Chapter 750. The most precious treasure in the entire Dragon Palace is in the Dragon Emperor Palace. I just didn't expect the power of the array to still be so strong after tens of thousands of years. Not only is there an array spirit guarding it, but the group of demonic creatures in the array is also terrifying. Indeed, although the array spirit is only carrying out the mission of the ancient dragon clan, as long as we block it, it won't be difficult for us to rush in and it won't stop us. However, the array spirit is extremely powerful. It can mobilize the power of the array and is comparable to a late-stage essence soul realm expert. It's just that the demonic creatures inside make it difficult for us to move. That's right. If we want to rush into the Dragon Emperor Palace from this side hall, we have to be wary of the demonic creatures in addition to the array spirit's obstruction. There are thousands of demonic creatures comparable to the Golden Core realm, and many of them are comparable to the Essence Soul realm. It's far from enough with just us. We'll probably be torn apart as soon as we enter. Now it seems that we can only wait. Wait for the top experts to arrive. Demon King Tsanggu, Demon King Ao Su, Golden Scaled Demon King Wraith Devoured Demon Supremacy, Giant Whale Immortal Cities Fu Yunfan. Only by relying on these experts can we have a chance of entering the Dragon Emperor Palace. Even if we can't get any secret treasures, it'll be great if we can enter the land of inheritance of the true Dragon Clan and obtain the inheritance of 1 or 2 top experts. Bai Ziyue approached quietly. Soon, he learned a lot of information from the discussions. There's an array spirit in the Dragon Emperor Palace. The array spirit's strength has reached the late-stage Essence Soul realm. Ziyue couldn't help but look at the interior of the Dragon Emperor Palace through the collapsed side hall. It was only then that he could see the situation inside the Dragon Emperor Palace clearly. The first thing that caught his eye were 2 colossal creatures. One of them was green in color with distinct scales and horns on its head. Although its face looked ferocious, it had a unique aura of Tao. It was the body of a true dragon. It was most likely the corpse of a Dragon Clan expert at the Spirit Severing Realm. The corpse was more than 1,000 feet long, and its chest was bleeding. The blood was still fresh, as if it had just been injured. On the other side was a terrifying creature that was 150 feet long. Even when lying down, it was still 30 feet tall. Judging from its outer appearance, This terrifying creature was quite similar to those black-scaled lizard demons. Were they actually of the same race? Extraterrestrial demon? Could this be an extraterrestrial demon? So all the extraterrestrial demons look like this? Ziyue asked in a low voice. That's right. This was the seven-god realm otherworldly demon that had attacked the Dragon Palace back then. It seemed that although Dragon Palace had suffered heavy losses in the previous battle, the extraterritorial demon did not have an easy time and was killed here. However, not all extraterrestrial demons were like that. The extraterrestrial demons all had different appearances and sizes. They were also divided into many different races. Generally, they could be divided into human form, beast form, strange form, and so on. It was just that this time, it was mainly the beast race that attacked the Dragon Palace. Another thing worth mentioning is that among the Demon Dao sects, the Heavenly Demon Clan, the Limitless Demon Sect, and the True Demon Sect were actually created by 3 different races of extraterrestrial demons. Therefore, although the 3 demon sects were all created by extraterrestrial demons, the conflict between them was not small. Fairy Bai Chun could not help but explain. Hearing this, Ziyue came to a realization. Thinking about it, this was normal. Even in the star realm, there were many different races, not to mention the extraterrestrial demons in the vast starry sky. Through the collapsed side hall, Ziyue could vaguely see the danger and horror of the ancient battle. The damage to the Dragon Palace was obviously great. The collapse of the outer side hall was not too serious. Inside, almost half of the palace was in a state of collapse. Among them, Ziyue saw many Dharma treasure fragments and other things. Wait, what is that? Suddenly, Ziyue's eyes widened as he saw a huge long saber in the place where the extraterrestrial demon's corpse was not. At the edge of the long saber, there were also many black-scaled lizard demons surrounding it. But even the strongest black-scaled lizard demon was only 10 meters away from the long saber. It seemed to be deterred by some kind of force and did not dare to approach it. However, they were close to the long saber and kept swallowing it, as if they wanted to absorb power from the long saber. That seems to be a treasure at the level of a spirit treasure. It can continuously swallow the spirit chi essence in the Dragon Palace and transform it into power. Only then can it provide for the growth of those demons. Fairy Bai Chun also noticed the abnormality and explained with a voice transmission. Spirit treasure? Ziyue's pupils constricted. Even though he had guessed at the moment he saw the long saber, he was still excited when he got confirmation from Fairy Bai Chun. This was a spirit treasure, and it was a spirit treasure, so its power must be extraordinary. Obviously, there were many people who found the long saber, but although they were excited, they had to restrain themselves. Because the threat of the array spirit and nearly 2,000 black-scaled lizard demons was too great. Even if they were excited, they did not dare to act rashly. It's a spirit treasure. However, it's a spirit treasure of the extraterrestrial demon. We usually call it a demonic treasure. It naturally contains a strong, murderous aura. If 70% of the murderous aura in the entire Dragon Palace came from the extraterrestrial demon's corpse, then at least 30% belong to the demonic saber. So, if you want to get the demonic saber, you first need to have the strength to resist the attack of the demonic Dao's murderous aura. This has nothing to do with your combat strength, but the strength of your essence soul. If it was an ordinary essence soul realm cultivator, they would have to be at least at the mid-stage or even late stage to be able to resist the attack of the demonic saber's murderous aura. Not to mention, a true spirit treasure had an artifact spirit in it. Naturally, there would be a demonic spirit in a demonic treasure. If the cultivator's essence soul could not resist the attack of the murderous aura, it was very likely that the demonic spirit would take over and control the cultivator's consciousness, or even obliterate it, turning it into a tool for the demonic saber. In ancient times, there were human cultivators who could not resist the temptation and attack of the demonic treasure, resulting in a huge massacre. With that said, Fairy Bai Chun sighed faintly and looked at Ziyue solemnly. She said, "Fellow Taoist, you are the most amazing cultivator in the same realm that I have seen or even heard of in my life. You could be said to be a peerless genius. So, I hope that before you truly break through to the Essence Soul realm and reach the mid-stage of the Essence Soul realm, it's best that you don't touch such a demonic treasure. Because I really don't want you to become one of those mindless demonic monsters that only know how to kill. That would be the loss of the entire human race and even the entire astral realm. Ziue's heart trembled, and he revealed a solemn expression. He said, "Don't worry, I will be careful." However, can such a demonic treasure really only be used by cultivators above the mid-stage of the Essence Soul realm? Looking at the long saber, he naturally felt a little unwilling. Actually, you don't have to be discouraged. With your talent, potential, and strength, there are definitely many opportunities to obtain spirit treasures. Moreover, since the demonic treasure has not been taken away, it is obvious that the remaining 2 spirit treasures in the Dragon Emperor Palace must still be there. The spirit treasures in our astral realm are not filled with tyrannical aura like the extraterrestrial demons. As long as you can pass the spirit treasures test, where your strength can shake the spirit treasure itself, you can naturally take the spirit treasure away. I know of a passage that leads directly to the Dragon Emperor Palace, and the entrance leads directly to the Memory Inheritance Hall. Fairy Bai Chun comforted him and suddenly transmitted a voice transmission. A passage. It leads directly to the Memory Inheritance Hall inside the Dragon Emperor Palace. That spirit treasure is in the Memory Inheritance Hall? Ziyue could not help but ask. That's right. Fairy Bai Chun nodded. Then let's go. Let's go to the passage, you know. Ziyue could not help but be overjoyed. Compared to being able to directly enter the Dragon Emperor Palace to search for treasures, he naturally did not want to fight with so many experts surrounding him. The treasures here were also very tempting. The corpses of the 2 spirit severing stage experts were invaluable, not to mention the demonic treasure. But at this time, he also discovered that the Tao essence contained in the corpses of the 2 spirit severing stage experts, even if they had died, was still incomparably powerful. Be it the suppressive power of the true dragon or the demonic power of the extraterrestrial demons, neither was something that ordinary cultivators could resist. It was not that easy to take it away. It was better for him to take a step first and enter the Dragon Emperor Palace from another entrance and intercept the greatest treasure in the entire Dragon Emperor Palace, the Memory Inheritance Hall and a 9-dragon golden pagoda. Therefore, Ziyue and Fairy Bai Chun quietly left. Naturally, it attracted the attention of a few people, but with the Dragon Emperor Palace in front of them and the great treasures in the palace, they naturally did not pay too much attention. Actually, it's not impossible to withstand the attack of the demonic aura and control the demonic saber if one's immortal technique realm has not reached the mid-stage Essence Soul realm. Along the way, Fairy Bai Chun picked up where she left off and suddenly spoke. "Oh, what are the conditions?" Ziyue could not help but ask curiously. The first is a demonic Tao cultivator. If the cultivator is a demonic Tao cultivator of the same system as the extraterrestrial demons, because of their natural resistance to the demonic power, even an early-stage Essence Soul realm cultivator can withstand the attack of the demonic saber's demonic aura. The second is a special kind of genius with a perfected soul and a transparent essence soul. That kind of existence is rare in the world, because a perfected soul is a state. It is not something that can be achieved if a cultivator wants to achieve it. Before reaching the Golden Core realm, one must have accumulated an extremely strong foundation, and the cultivation method must also be the best cultivation method in the world. They must also have gone through many fortuitous encounters and have a special soul cultivation method, such as the Dragon Clan visualization technique. Only after cultivating to a certain extent can they achieve it. In fact, in the entire immortal technique world, as far as I know, there may only be 1 or 2 such people at least every 10,000 years. Such an existence has a perfected soul and a transparent essence soul, so they naturally have a strong resistance to all kinds of essence soul attacks and demonic aura attacks. Naturally, They can also withstand the demonic treasure's demonic aura attack. Fairy Bai Chun explained. Is that so? Ziyue could not help but reveal a strange look on his face. He was not surprised that the demonic Dao cultivator could better control demonic treasures, because the cultivation method they cultivated was passed down by the extraterrestrial demons. However, the second condition mentioned by Fairy Bai Chun made his heart skip a beat. His soul had already reached the perfected level before breaking through to the peak of the Golden Core realm. Now that he had officially reached the peak of the Golden Core realm, not only was his soul perfected, but the golden soul threads in his soul were also extremely abundant. He believed that although he had not yet passed the lightning tribulation and officially broken through to the essence soul realm, the strength of his soul, especially with the support of the golden soul threads, would not be weaker than those early-stage essence soul cultivators. Could it be that you? Fairy Bai Chun said as she looked at Ziyue. When she saw the strange look on his face, she was shocked and her face was full of disbelief. Could it be that your soul has already reached the perfected level? Thinking of Ziyue's shocking combat strength, talent, and potential, the foundation he had accumulated in the early stages must be very terrifying. Coupled with the fact that he was already at the peak of the Golden Core realm, it did not seem impossible that his soul had reached the perfected level. That's right. Ziyue nodded slightly and said with a smile, Really? Your soul has reached the perfected level? Fairy Bai Chun was stunned. Although she already somewhat believed it in her heart, when Ziyue admitted it to her personally, she still felt a strong impact. This was even more shocking than seeing Ziyue's heaven-defying combat strength. After all, there would always be a cultivator who could go against the odds and slay an immortal every once in a while. If one had one or two powerful treasures, even if their actual combat strength was slightly weaker, it was not impossible. However, the perfected soul was a kind of realm, a kind of display of the supreme foundation of an immortal Dao cultivator. It was a rare occurrence. At least in her era, there was no one who had heard of it at all. In the last 13,000 years, there was only one person who had done it. That person was also a shocking genius, and his life of cultivation was like a legend. In the end, he even broke through the essence soul realm and became an immortal Dao expert. Therefore, many cultivators guessed that once an immortal Dao cultivator's soul was perfected and his essence soul was transparent, there was a high chance that he would break through the shackles of the essence soul realm and reach the spirit-severing realm, becoming an immortal Dao expert. In other words, Taoist Beiming in front of me is also very likely to break through to the spirit-severing realm in the future and become an immortal Dao expert. Fairy Bai Chun widened her eyes and stared at Ziyue. That's right. Not long ago. In addition, a special golden thread has appeared on my soul. Fairy, do you know what this golden thread is? Ziyue did not hide it. He also thought of the special golden thread in his soul and knew that Fairy Bai Chun was the saintess of the ancient super-celestial sect, the Jade Lake Immortal Sect. She must have extraordinary knowledge, which was why he asked for guidance. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.